And first of all, I want to thank Al Ayman, the best manager in the world.
He's the fucking champion of the world!
Adonis Stevenson, piece of shit.
No, I think Rosado, good boy. Rosado is a good boy.
I've become a massive international superstar, it's as simple as that.
I eat your asshole alive, you bitch! Scared of the real man. I'll fuck you till you love me, faggot.
I'm going to physically shoot David Hay. He fucking glassed me. He glassed me.
Derek, cool down. I'm Shannon Bridge. I'm hard to kill. I'm the black meat with the ball. I'm hard to fucking kill.
Well, I believe Christopher can take a punch. I'm very good at math and looking at a fighter and seeing what his abilities are. I can't see that Golovkin has anything like Christopher's speed, his power, his punching ability, his fence speed, his foot movement. I don't see that from a calculating point of view. I don't see that he has anything like that. So then it's going to come down to heart.
You know, I spoke to Joe Gallagher, they don't want to fight Carl Frampton. And the bottom line is, you know, no disrespect to Prosper Anchor, these guys aren't good enough to face Carl Frampton.
I'm the best heavyweight champion in the world. I'm half WPC with me. I'm undefeated champion. Undisputed champion. I want who next?
He's got my dinoribonnucleic acid.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Who next?
Barker never fought Sturm.
Welcome everyone to the 100th edition of the Boxing Salem Nuthouse podcast, brought to you by BoxingSalem.com. It is Sunday the 9th of November. I'm your host Andy Patterson, and with us today we've got some of the founding members of the podcast. We've got Dave the Hater Lowback making his return at the podcast. The main host of the show, the Astral Class is the main host of the show, Matty D. He's back in the chair today. He's not wanting to host though for some reason. Tommy Allen, Steve Wellens, the Irish Boxing Review, Mr. Boxing Scene, Kurt Ward, and Alex Morris. Guys, I think we did see history getting created last night. I mean, Sergey Kovalev, unbeaten WBO light heavyweight champion, scored a one-sided 12-round unanimous decision against the 49-year-old IBF and WBA champion Bernard Hopkins in Atlantic City. Scored 120-107 twice and 120-106. Now, the biggest Hopkins fan that I know is Dave the Hater. Now, Dave, mate, you're a big Hopkins fan. We were chatting on Twitter last night during the fight. That 12th round, did you think your man was going to fold?
I was biting my lip there at the end. I thought he might get stopped, especially with that one punch where his head kind of snapped back. I thought the ref might stop him. I don't think he was in serious danger of being injured or actually knocked out cold there. But I mean, you could definitely argue that if I was the ref, I might have stopped that. I mean, he's almost 50-year-old guy he's getting unloaded on here by a guy who's killed somebody in the ring. But no, it ended up just being great drama, and the fact that he made it to the final bell was a relief, and I'm happy for him that he made it. I think that's really why he raised his arm there at the end, because I mean, he knew he didn't win, and he didn't try to pretend that he won.
You think? Well, obviously, he just put his hand up just to be glad that he actually got through the 12 rounds. Tommy, mate, you said that he was going to get iced in 3-4 rounds, but at the end of the day, we saw a side to Kovalev that some people were kind of unsure about A, his gas tank, and B, his ability not to get drawn in and get sucker punched by Hopkins. He would step in, he's maybe 2, 3, 4 punches and step out of distance again and reset himself. I think he just proved to the world that we've said it before, but I think the whole world now know that Kovalev just isn't some banger.
Yeah, that was a great performance last night. I think, as you say, he showed the world he isn't just a puncher. He was phenomenal last night. He was actually he gave Bernard Hopkins a bit. Forget about the power. He actually gave Bernard a bit of boxing lesson. Bernard couldn't cope with Kovalev's actual boxing ability. Technically, he was awesome. He closed the distance very well. He kept a nice a nice pace, consistent with the jab, and as he always says, he doesn't go looking for the knockout. He just kept his work rate up, kept hitting what Bernard was giving him. His timing was actually near perfect last night. This guy is phenomenal. He's even better than I thought he was. I know Bernard's 50 years old, but he's still a great athlete for the age of 50, and I don't think there's many in the light heavyweight division would even still beat him. So you've got to give Kovalev full credit for that performance last night. He was nearly punch perfect.
Matt, you heard Tommy saying there, mate, he doesn't think anybody else in the light heavyweight division would beat Hopkins, either beat Hopkins or beat him like that, but certainly wouldn't beat him that widely anyway, would they?
Yeah, the dark horse in the division right now is kind of Beterbiev. Cloud is limited, but when you go ahead and you wax him in 2 rounds, I mean, Stevenson, hit him clean a bunch of times, and he was in there with him for 7 or 8 rounds and never really, got crap to the canvas or anything. But I don't think anyone really outside of maybe Beterbiev, God, what a weird name to say, can do it, because there's questions about him. I haven't seen anything from anyone else that makes me think they could pull it off. Kovalev did a lot of things great. He kept landing that jab to the body, which, made the Hopkins have to set oftentimes, and he headhunt a little too much. I think if he wore the body more, it could have been good going down the back end, but and he might have been able to pull the stoppage off. But he proved he has extra tools, and you honestly have to think that Stevenson has got to be even more worried now, because he proved that he just doesn't have to lift that one punch. He can go 12 rounds down the stretch and outbox you. I'm kind of curious to see Ward move up to 168. The new fight that I want to see is Ward against Kovalev more than even Stevenson. I think it's about the most interesting fight to be made in boxing at this point in time.
Steve, I was listening to the post-fight press conference. Hopkins says he felt like a middleweight against a cruiserweight in the ring there last night. That being the case, some people do reckon that Hopkins, even though coming up for 50 in January, won't retire. Do you think feasibly, if he does stay on, that he might look down weight to super middleweight, maybe challenge the likes of maybe Carol Froch's, for instance? If Froch isn't going to retire, mind you, that is.
I wouldn't be surprised if Hopkins does carry on, whether it be ego or his legacy or whatever you want to call it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Hopkins decided to box on. I'd like to see him personally retire now, but he might look back at the tape and he might not want to go out, as everyone's seeing him with his head being rocked back there, and David Field potentially jumping in and stopping the fight. So I think it's very conceivable that could carry on at super middleweight. As for the sign, is my sound okay? Sorry,
I think everyone may want to end this call, cut and restart.
It might be alright in a minute. It just seems to go a bit choppy then.
Right, okay, mate. Sorry, Steve, when you go, mate.
Yeah, the size difference was noticeable from the start. I thought Hopkins looked quite drawn, even. I mean, Kovalev was just huge compared to him in the ring on the night, and like Tommy said, I was really impressed with Kovalev's composure and timing and his technical efficiency. We knew he was a big puncher and a physically strong guy, but I liked his activity. He was active to a point, but there was never any possibility that he was going to get tired out. He threw the right punches at the right time. And I've even seen on social media a few people actually now are trying to discredit the victory by saying he beat up a 50-year-old. But beforehand, there were people not just picking Hopkins to be competitive, but to win the fight. I mean, if you listen to the HBO boxing podcast, for example, both of them guys picked Hopkins to win the fight. So this is a major victory for Kovalev. And just on the final round, actually, I thought he was going to get stopped. I even called as the point when his head stepped back, maybe, this is enough to stop him, but I think Kovalev was going to carry Hopkins for the last round, but about a minute in, he caught him with the right hand, and if you notice, Hopkins poked his tongue out and winked at Kovalev, and then Kovalev says, right, you're getting it for the last 2 minutes. And
it seemed to anger Kovalev, didn't it?
He did, didn't it? And then he planted his feet and he laid a beating on him for the last 2 minutes. I think if Hopkins hadn't done that, he might have just let him see the distance out, but this guy is a destroyer, and I'm really impressed with him.
He is an evil puncher. I mean, as I said, I didn't think that actually in the 12th round that he got that far. Hopkins didn't look like he was going to turn the tide. I just thought maybe Kovalev might just go out there and try and smash him out of there. Adam Smith, I I don't know how you scored the fight, mate. I think I dare say everyone else would have scored the fight a shutout. That final round, did you end up scoring it a 10-8 round by any chance, like I did?
Yeah, definitely 10-8. I thought it was verging on dangerous, to be honest. When I first watched it live, I was quite disgusted with the referee because he was no way near even. He wasn't even close. He wasn't even getting in close. He decided that Hopkins was going to make the final bell. But when I watched it on the replay, like was mentioned earlier, he wasn't exactly on his feet. He did take a few blows, obviously. So I think it was probably the right thing happened in the end. I was impressed with Kovalev, as everyone was. It was a mature performance. He controlled the pace, but also didn't waste energy, and his efficiency in shots was good throughout. I thought he targeted the body quite well. I know someone said he could have gone down south more often in the later rounds, which I agree with. But Hopkins is just so hard to hit, with on the chin or anything above that. I think he did the right thing by concentrating down south, throwing punches in bunches as well. He's a superstar in the making, really. I know he's not quite there yet, but he certainly could be. There's a few fights out there for him. I think the Ward fight, as mentioned, I think that would be an awesome matchup to find out. It'd be a chess match for some parts of it, but we'd find out how good both of them are. So that would be interesting, and I'm excited to see him go on. So moral victory for Nathan Cleverly, really. That he's the man that beat him has now gone on to be one of the best in the division. So him and Bellew can argue over that in the next couple of weeks.
Yep. As I said, I think I was I think I was the only person last week on the panel to pick Hopkins. I just felt as why is he taking the fight? And as a result of that, after seeing Hopkins there last night, no really thrown much. It was just more like a case of pure survival. Maybe he took the fight just to try and end that lawsuit between Main Events and Golden Boy. Who knows? Alex, one thing I did notice about Hopkins, he had major problems trying to defend him last night with the jab to the body. Touched upon, technically, Kovalev very, very underrated, and I would be brutally honest and say that I can't see someone like that games.
Sound went a bit choppy there. Is my sound okay at the moment?
Yeah, fine, yeah.
Yeah, fine, mate.
Right, yeah. Stevens going nowhere near him. I mean, he ducked the fight once. He's going to duck the fight even more now after he did Hopkins. I don't think that anyone really predicted Kovalev to do that to Hopkins either. Most of us predicted Kovalev to either smash him up or, stop him or pummel him into submission. But no one, I think, really expected him to school Hopkins the way he did, to actually get boxing the way he did. I think we learned a lot about Kovalev's ring IQ and his ability to be patient and ability to time punches as well. Does it sound still bad, is it? Or
kind of cutting in and out sometimes. How's the sound, guys?
It's better just now.
Alright, well, I'll carry on. Where was I? Yeah, Kovalev, he's just incredibly patient. The way he dealt with Hopkins' usual attempts to, come off the ropes and smother an offense. Kovalev took a step back, and that's where he got the first knockdown. He took a step back, swung the right hook, and he put Hopkins down. And Hopkins, I think, when he got hit like that, he just put the fear of God in him. He just felt that power, and I think part of him didn't want to see any more of it. Obviously, the jab as well, which was very consistent for Kovalev, really just confused Hopkins a lot. And the greatest irony of it all was that Kovalev shut down the master of offensive nullification. He managed to shut down Hopkins' offense, which Hopkins' offense isn't exactly abundant. He never really throws many punches anyway, but he seemed even more fearful of engaging Kovalev just simply because he knew he'd get cracked with a good punch in response. And I think that all the people making the excuse now that Hopkins is 50 years old, Hopkins is an old man, it's just very reminiscent of bloody Coming to America, the barbershop scene, or Joe Lewis is 137 years old. It's very just embarrassing for a lot of people. I think Hopkins would still beat most of the people in the light heavyweight division. I'd still pick him to beat Adonis Stevenson, to be honest. And, if Stevenson actually mans up and Al Heyman doesn't get involved, that would be a great fight. And, fans want to see the divisions unified. Fans want to see a guy hold all four belts at once. It's such a rare occurrence, and I think we need to see more of it.
Yeah, the cancer of boxing is Al Heyman. He's not going to allow that fight to anytime soon. I don't think as well. I think Stevenson's career stagnated somewhat. If you look at his last two fights, and you just take into account what Kovalev's done. Kurt, you heard. I think it was. I don't know if it was Steve that mentioned it about potential stoppage in the 12th round. Some are saying on the forum, for instance, that Hopkins probably deserved to see the fight, but it was. I was one of those guys who was actually fearing for Hopkins' life at one point. You know this? Were you the same?
In the 12th round, I mean, Steve mentioned it when he stuck his tongue out. It was like, Kovalev thought, right, I'm gonna give the alien an anal probe right now, and he just went after him and just really pummeled him around the ring. I mean, the thing is, if he had done that earlier, I think he would have stopped him. I think if Kovalev had come out throwing 100 punches around like we saw against Campillo and Kovalev, I think he could have stopped him as well early. I think his trainer was right. He kind of kept him on the leash by saying, don't worry, don't rush. You got the time, break him down slowly, which I think was the right thing, because just in case he did go all out and couldn't get rid of Hopkins, you just don't know what his stamina is like. I mean, I don't think they were. They seemed a bit worried that he might gas himself out, so he went for the the safer option, break him down, and he battered him for like 12 rounds. To be honest, I mean, I think the ref was very close to stopping it, but I think he knew there was about 20 seconds left, and he let the old man see it out, and I think it was fair in the end. I mean, he got through it, and he was all right, and it was always going to be too hard for him. I think he was never going to outwork Kovalev. The game plan seemed to be, let's go in there, let's hope he blows his load. My chin will get me through it, and I'll fiddle my way through it, and then just like I did against John Pascal, I'll take over. But you got to make a person work to tire them out, and that was a sparring session in my eyes for Kovalev. He was going at a simple pace. I mean, like I said, he can throw 90, 100 punches around. He was throwing 40, 50, and he seemed fine with it. He broke him down slowly and made sure he got the victory. And to be honest, I don't think Hopkins will retire. This is what I said last week. I wanted to see Kovalev go out there and destroy him, to be honest, do to him what I think he should do, and make Hopkins say, you know what, that there's no coming back for me now. But I still think, even though he lost wide and weren't really in it, he'll still say there's a lot of easier guys I can still face who are rated high. I can still face and still beat. There's Adonis Stevenson. I don't know whether that fight can happen, but Hopkins, I still believe, will fancy his chances in that fight. Personally, I think Stevenson beats him, but Hopkins will still believe he can fight on. And I got to say, he took it. He never bitched out at all. He fought, and he took some big shots, especially to round about the ear area. And his punch resistance is obviously excellent.
I think Hopkins would like the Stevenson fight just again to put two fingers up to Heyman in the gang.
Yeah. I think as well. Sorry, Milton, you go.
I want to see Hopkins move up because he can beat Marco Huck.
Now, Huck's going to heavyweight, though, isn't he?
I think he's sticking around. For Hopkins, he'd stick around one more. He'd stick around one more fight. I thought he was trying one more defense. I bet he'd try to stretch it to 2 if he could get that. And I don't think it's something they would chase just because they don't think the way that we do. But that's a fight that he could win, and it's really meaningful. That's a belt that's been defended against some of the very best in the division.
The size difference would be too big against Hook, though. I mean,
Kovalev looked huge compared to him. Hook's going to be massive next to him.
Huck throws a lot as well.
Somebody said to me on Twitter last night, Tommy, now, I don't know how true it is, but apparently, do you remember the talk about Hopkins apparently wanting to fight David Hay?
Aye, that was about 2 or 3 years ago, yeah.
And Adam Booth apparently confirmed that fight was actually being talked about.
Oh, David Hay came out and says he didn't actually want to fight because he wouldn't get credit for it. I think it was actually before David Hay fought Klitschko, and they were looking for opponents and that, and Hopkins' names kept up, but he definitely came out and says that the fight's it's never going to happen because he wouldn't get any credit for being an old man. So
yeah, but let's remember, Hopkins has talked about us fighting everyone from Mayweather all the way up to David Hay. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Possibilities are endless.
That's true. I mean,
he would as well.
Let's talk about credit. I mean, at the end of the day, as well as if you think about it, we did discuss it. I think it was widely muted as well as if Hopkins took it the distance, Kovalev was going to get shot on for not being able to blast out an old man. If Kovalev blasted them out earlier, then it was the fact that Hopkins was far too old. Dave, was you a wee bit concerned in any sort of way when you heard Naz in between, like I think it was the 7th and 8th round? I mean, you could hear the emotion in his voice. You know, he's basically kind of pleading with Hopkins to try and do something different. I felt at one point as that Naz was seriously considering pulling Hopkins out at some point.
He was like,
I wasn't too concerned. I mean, he threatened to stop Shane Mosley against Floyd just because he's kind of frustrated. I mean, by that point, it was pretty clear there's no way Hopkins is winning this unless Kovalev just suddenly completely gasses, and then he scores a knockout. And then he did go for the knockout in the 12th round, which I was impressed with. Because, I mean, it looked to stagger Kovalev just a little bit. And Kovalev
I shit myself when that happened.
In the post-fight interview, Kovalev admitted he was shook up a couple times. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't too concerned there. I mean, I was more concerned when Kovalev just started laying it on him there in the 12th, and he looked like he was about to be finished.
That's Hopkins' 7th defeat, and I think it's the first time since a defeat I've actually heard Hopkins actually praise and be humble after a defeat like that.
That's because the other ones weren't defeats.
The
way he just tried to take Calzaghe's victory away from him with his bitter, nasty mouth, that just made me an enemy of his forever, to be honest.
I wanted to see him twitching last night. I think Nazim's voice when it was breaking up and emotional was because obviously a white boy was destroying him, and that's not good for the street cred, is it?
He did say that, I think it was the end of the 9th round, he did say, you need a knockout to win. If you're incapable of getting it, tell me. So he's basically saying, you know, if you can't knock him out, I'll pull you out. And Hopkins obviously said, you know, I can, and he went for it, didn't he, in the 10th as well.
I think Hopkins needed Joe Goosen in the corner last night to say to him, you better get fucking inside of him now.
Yeah,
anyways,
but I don't think anybody going inside on Kovalev is going to last.
The thing is, you know, it was a bad night for Hopkins. His headbutt wasn't even working, was it? So he had nothing really.
Hey, that was last night was a clean fight. I mean, he
was by Hopkins standards, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't do it. He did one thing. He pushed Kovalev down in the 1 round. I don't even think it was really intentional. I mean, he wasn't.
Should have been a DQ.
That was a very clean performance by Hopkins.
If you actually look at both fighters afterwards, there was hardly any of them were actually marked up, in all honesty, and you consider the kind of shots that Kovalev was landing. But as I say, it's really hard to land clean on Hopkins because he goes into that Philly shell, so you've got to kind of land on about the side of the head, top of the head, apart from that right hook that dropped him in the first round. But Tommy, mate, you created a thread earlier on the day Is Kovalev now top 10 pound for pound? My personal opinion, no, because if you think about like Karol Froch, for instance, he took a long time to get into the top 10 pound for pound. So I'm just going to go through all of these. Is he top 10 pound for pound? If not, what does he need to do to get there? And if he is top 10 pound for pound, where do you rank him, Matty?
No, he needs Stevenson or Pascal.
Tommy?
Definitely.
He's number 8.
I'd say about 8. If you look at his resume, how many Ring Magazine top 10 guys has he beaten now? And he's not just beating them, he's absolutely decimating them. It's not just the manner of the victories. I think he's top 10 without a doubt.
Steve?
I wouldn't say he is quite yet, but I think he's buzzing around the sort of 11 and 12. I agree with Matty. I think a Stevenson definitely, and even a Pascal would push him in.
Dave?
I don't have a lot of patience for top 10 pound for pound lists because there's no real criteria. However, Hopkins was certainly on there, justifiably. Beat him. He didn't just use his youth. And Hopkins is old, that's true, and that was probably part of the fight. I'm sure it was, but he outboxed him in a lot of ways. He outsmarted the old smartest fighter. So I think I put him up there. I think you can take Hopkins' place wherever you might have had Hopkins was. I mean, It's a really annoying thing to rank when you compare guys in different divisions based on fighting different opposition when there's no specific criteria, whether you base it on the history of their entire resume or whether you just give it on their potential. I mean, obviously Chuck Giampa based it on potential when he had Adrian Broner in there at number 8. But
and Canelo after he beat Trout.
Yeah.
It's his first best win.
I think Canelo's still on there, actually.
Dave, simple question.
Yes.
Kovalev one of the 10 best fighters in the sport right now?
Kovalev's up there, yep.
Okay.
He's on my list.
Kurt?
No, not for me.
I think you're in agreement with me, actually. Probably just outside of it, isn't he?
Well, you got to look at it like this. I mean, you can't even rank him as the number 1 light heavyweight in the world. So how can he be in the pound for pound list, in my opinion?
Wow.
Alex?
I don't have him top 10 yet, but I think that if you're rating Golovkin in the top 10, you have to have Kovalev on there. I think Kovalev, in the grand scheme of things, is higher than Golovkin at the moment, even though Golovkin's probably got a greater string of wins, dominant wins. I think Kovalev's single marquee win places him higher in the rankings over Hopkins like that. But he's not top 10 for me yet. Like, he needs, again, a Stevenson or just maybe another 1 or 2 really dominant knockouts or clinic put on, and then he'll be up there for sure.
Adam?
I agree with everything Alex has just said. I think he needs closely linked to Golovkin. Definitely needs one more win, and I think it's worth mentioning. I know Hopkins ain't a massive puncher, but he showed an half decent chin last night. Took a few shots while he was at it, which we haven't seen before.
Kurt, didn't you have Roman Gonzalez in your top 10 before he fought Yagashi?
I had him in it after he beat him.
No, I had him in after.
Backpedaling, man.
And I haven't got Golovkin in either. So
you had him at 4, Roman Gonzalez, didn't you, Kurt?
What about Miguel Vasquez?
Oh, my! Defend this one.
Well, he's obviously higher than Miguel Vasquez after that travesty of a decision. So,
who'd you drop Vasquez to, Matty? Maybe about 14.
You probably even got to get him closer to 20, Tommy. Sad day.
The thing is, as well, actually, obviously, if Kovalev does beat Stevenson now, what does he do after that? I mean, it's speculative, obviously, but if he ends up holding all the belts and decides to stay light heavyweight, Hopkins just says he will be champion for as long as he wants it, i.e. lives the life, basically. But you could end up then getting rematches against the likes of Gabriel Campillo, because obviously I think Campillo's now is number 1 contender for the IBF title.
I think it's that Mohammedi, isn't it?
Yeah, the French guy that cleverly beat, yeah.
I mean, he'll get blasted out early. Let's be honest.
He's got a glass jaw, that guy.
But I mean, like, it's hard to say who's going to be around, but there's still some good fights there. I mean, Pascal's one. Obviously, the Stevenson fight is what everyone wants to see, but that I can't see that happening anytime soon. And Campillo's there. There's names he can fight. I mean, the thing is, he can't just move up. It's such a big leap to the cruiserweight division. It's not like £7 to the next division. So, I mean, he can just keep winning. Other men do it in other divisions, and as long as he's getting good paid. I mean, he's one of those fighters that HBO want to show, so I don't think you'll have any problem there.
He's got to wait around for 3 fights, basically. He's got to wait around for Beterbiev to step up. He's got to wait for Andre Ward to actually do something with his life, and he's got to wait for Golovkin to maybe move up and meet him at a catchweight or something.
And
what about Sakio Bika?
What about Sakio?
No. Bika moving up 7 pounds. I mean, you talk about a guy that is very, very awkward and can contest a fighter. I mean, you're talking 7 pounds off. Bika just lost his title down there. Maybe you should move up. I think Kovalev against Bika is a great fight to fill time.
That's also the point as well. You got middleweights who will probably be moving up as well. Some of them are big guys there.
Darrell's going to go up there before. Andre Darrell's going to go up there before long. He's huge at 160.
George Groves will be up there as well.
Yeah.
But we're forgetting return of the Mac, Enzo Macronelli. Surely that could be a contender.
You're sick.
That's not funny. I mean, Christ, Enzo ended up getting fed through a straw if that fight was to happen. I mean that's respectful.
No.
But if Enzo
got a
lands,
hard on when Frankel knocked him out.
Since I saw him drop the weight, that chin that is improved tenfold. Just as Amir Khan's chin improves as he moves up, Enzo's improves as he moves down.
What about the chat is mentioning Isaac Chilemba?
Oh, fuck that. I don't know what to see that guy fight again. He's in the Austin Trout category where you just don't know what to see guys like that fighting.
Yeah,
man.
but I wouldn't like seeing Kovalev smashing him, to be
What
honest.
about that guy who fought in Monte Carlo there, Elader Alvarez? Or do you think it'd be a bit too soon for him?
He's a bit of a fud, so yeah, put him in, let Kovalev smash him up.
The Stevenson fight really isn't going to happen, is it? He's Al Heyman, he's on Showtime. HBO's got Kovalev tied up, so I think we can forget about that fight. Andre Ward's more realistic. Andre Ward's
we're all forgetting something here. All right, there's one fight in the vicinity of 175 that really matters, and Kovalev could prove he's a man. He needs to fucking travel to the prison canteen and take on Ekpo.
The grenade.
The grenade, The thing is,
we could pick Chris John against Marquez on the undercard of that, couldn't we, Dave?
one of the main things is, go to you, Dave. I mean, obviously, if the fight of Stevenson doesn't happen, but it's a lineal champion here, you've got to then start kind of questioning him if Stevenson is the legit champion now. If he doesn't get that fight at some point, as people are then going to start kind of calling him, I know he's beat the man, and all that sort of stuff. But there comes a point whereas, the main threat in the division, it's just like the other talk between fighter A and fighter B. Doing it welterweight, that fight isn't going to happen. So at the same time as you're going to then start questioning one person's legacy. So I think Stevenson's going to have to be the man here and step up.
You had to start questioning Stevenson, as soon as he ducked the fight. And now it's just getting worse and worse. I think Jean Pascal said it well enough. Fighter of the year in 2013, flop of the year 2014. How do you feel, bro? That's what he asked him on Twitter. And that's exactly what's happened. He's moved to Heyman and had a disgrace of a year. Looked shit against
Fanfara.
And Fanfara, right? Dropped, gassed, didn't get him out of there. Now he's fighting some other guy who's no one's ever heard of. He's not a terrible fighter.
Shutosuke. Now, you probably call him a Eurobum since you're a big hater.
Nobody's ever heard of the guy. Nobody's particularly interested in this fight. The guy's not terrible, but is this what we want to see the lineal champion do? No. And Kovalev proved he's the man at the weight, and I think everyone pretty much. I don't many people who would agree with that. You beat Chad Dawson after he was destroyed by Andre Ward. Granted, it was at light heavyweight, not super middleweight, but how much do we? I think maybe too much was put on that win.
You think it's over?
Since then, we've seen Dawson lose to cleverly victim Carpensy.
Adam, is that victory for Stevenson over Dawson overrated now?
Decent question. I don't know. It's difficult with Stevenson because he's had such a stagnant year, as you said. It's difficult to really evaluate him. I'm not sure. My question was, the lineal title. This is going to make me sound daft here. Does that have to be taken from Stevenson? Because wouldn't you say he's Kovalev now?
If he retires or doesn't defend it in a year, I think you then got to consider that the title was then vacant at that point. So that would basically mean as I don't know if he could grant Kovalev or upgrade him to the lineal champion because
you've got to win it though, haven't you?
He's got to win it. Yeah, he's got to win it against the man basically.
And he'd have to beat Stevenson anyway because Stevenson, even if he was inactive, would probably be number 2.
Yeah. Put it this way: go back in history, right? When Ali was forced out of the sport for 3 years, Frazier they then took over, won all the belts, classes, the man. But at the same time, as well as people who follow the sport, Howard Cosell were all saying he's a champion of nothing. Because at the end of the day, you've got to beat the man who was the man, and that man was Ali.
And then Smoking Joe did beat the man.
Which Kovalev is not the champion until he beats Sir Joe. Then.
In fact, no, we'll leave that talk for a wee bit later on, actually. But I'll tell you what, we'll move down the card a wee bit. I was kind of watching between. I tried to slice my eyelids off to kind of keep watching this fight last night, and I kind of almost fell asleep. Louis Abregu, Matty, I'll go to you, mate. I know the Yanks have seen this fight. Louis Abregu stopped in 9 rounds against Saddam Ali. First 4 or 5 rounds were pretty poor, but Ali, not a noted puncher, but at the end of the day as well as he made Abregu look like an amateur at some points from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, Abregu just didn't look himself really. He'd been on a pretty serious layoff, and I don't know if he really prepared himself for the speed that Ali brought to the table. It'd be interesting to see Ali in with a really good pressure fighter with a good engine over 12 rounds, because the way he moves, I just think the guy's got to get burnt out over it. But it was an impressive victory that definitely puts him in position for a potential title fighter, a title eliminator. It could be good to see him maybe against a guy like a Keith Thurman, or it makes an interesting fight, at least since the Cold War is thawed and you can make all these different matches now. So I'm all for seeing more of him, but I just think he's one of those guys that's going to come up a little bit short in a really stacked welterweight division.
Do you think he would stand up to the firepower of Thurman, Matty?
Oh, God, no. The problem is Abregu just doesn't have the speed of a guy like Thurman. Thurman's willing to punch with you, and he punches harder than Ali does, and he's got plenty of speed on him.
I think that's a great fight, though. I think that's a really good test for Thurman. I would really like to see that fight, and I was impressed with Ali. At first, for the first couple rounds, obviously, I was so bored and just like thinking, this Ali's no Muhammad, but he really turned it on, and I was most impressed with the punching power he had, because I'd never seen that out of him. I saw him a couple times, and I know he was an amateur, and a lot of times these guys that come up from the amateurs, they don't punch with the full power, but his power, I think, was what got Abrigu's respect and got him so gun-shy. I mean, Abrigu did go for it late when he looked like Ali was tiring, but as soon as he caught that counter left hook, he goes right back on the run and gets stopped shortly after.
Was it true that Ali launched a 9-round jihad?
I'm not going to touch that one, Andy, but let me just say one thing. I think this fight set a record for booing. I know the big fight crowds love booing whenever there's no action. 35 seconds, no word of a lie. I looked on the clock. They were booing after 35 seconds.
Apparently there was like a 50-minute break in between the last fight. That's a disgrace.
That's what I heard as well. There was a lot of knockouts on the undercard, and there was I heard it was even longer than that, and so the crowd had been sitting for a long time, and then they got served up this. And Ali, I was quite impressed with Ali. I thought he did the job and rubber stamped a really good boxing performance with an excellent knockout, because I thought it was him that was going to be getting knocked out in the 9th round, so he proved me wrong.
I know he's coming off a loss, but I think Sean Porter would walk to New York to face Ali. I think that would be a perfect matchup for him.
I'm glad I fell asleep last night. I wouldn't have had to listen to that dickhead Bunce talking for 50 minutes between the last fights.
Oh, it was getting painful.
This podcast has gone past 7 minutes. Can we please hurry it up?
Ooh, Mr. Bunce. Yeah, we'll get on to Mr. Bunce shortly. Guys, moving on to the card from Germany. I know me, Tommy, and Kurt's seen the fight. Anyone else who's seen it, just dive in. I'd probably say it's probably the best fight of the night. I know. For instance, the big fight was obviously Kovalev Hopkins. It was very intriguing, even though it was a shutout. It was just going to be the fact is it was more a question: could Kovalev stop Hopkins? That's what made the fight more intriguing as the fight went on. But the big fight, or the best fight of the night, obviously is going to go to Felix Sturm against Robert Stieglitz. Very, very competitive fight. In the end, I think it was 115-113 to Sturm, 115-113 to Stieglitz, and 114-114, making it a split draw. I thought it was an easy fight to score, actually. Sturm started off very, very, very good. Good jab, lead right hands, brilliant. It just looked like he was just going to dominate Stieglitz, and then it got to the point, Kurt, whereas it looked like he was just trying to steal around Sturm in the last maybe 30 seconds or so, and at what point, Stieglitz was coming out in war mode, and he was just basically putting the pressure on. Maybe Stieglitz's work wasn't as clean and accurate as what Sturm's was, but at the same time as well, as you've got to then ask yourself, was what Sturm doing in the last 20-30 seconds enough to steal those rounds? I personally had it 115-113 to Sturm. I've got no problem with the draw, and to be honest, mate, I wouldn't mind seeing the rematch.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with Sturm. The way he fights, he does give judges and fans, a chance to score against him, because he was the technical boxer in there, and he landed the better shots. But as the fight wore on, you could see he looked visibly tired, and Stieglitz, he's an active fighter. We saw that in the second Abraham fight. He can throw a lot of shots, and I think we had a case yesterday of both guys landing big shots on the other, but they didn't really have the power to stop the other guy. And I thought Sturm was sweeping a lot of the early rounds, but as the fight wore on, that's when he started to get tired, and he does what he usually does. He tries to steal the rounds in the last 30 seconds, and it was a close fight at the end, but I still felt Sturm should have got the win, to be honest. But like I said, it was back and forth action. Wasn't really expected from that fight. A really entertaining scrap with both throwing and landing big shots, and the one good thing out of it is we'll probably see a rematch now, and that's not a bad thing for fans.
I dare say the best thing about this, Tommy, is, and Adam, I'll just bring you two in at the same time here now. Obviously, the rematch will need to happen, because that was meant to be a final eliminator to fight Abraham, so it does look like that Paul Smith's going to get his rematch after all.
Yeah, I think that opens the door for a Paul Smith rematch. I really enjoyed it. I turned over just after the Channel 5, so I got it from round 4 onwards with German commentary. Really enjoyed it. It was a cracking fight. I thought Sturm did look the more like, well, it looked quite solid for me to say. He was moving up in weight slightly, and but I thought Stieglitz hit him to the body. I think it was definitely in round 9 and maybe in round 10 as well. So I thought that was some success for him, but yeah, pretty close. And obviously when it went to the cards, we pretty much knew what was coming. So yeah, rematch. Here we go. Will it be in Sturm's hometown again, or will they go to wherever Stieglitz faces himself.
I think he'll go to his hometown, Tommy. I mean, Sturm's the draw at the end of the day, isn't he?
Yeah, that's where the money is. But I've got to say, I was really impressed with Felix Sturm last night. His form lately has obviously been patchy. He looked great, sensational against Barker. Then there's obviously the two Solomon fights, which that sandwich in between. But I don't know if he's maybe been struggling at middleweight because he's been tiring in fights. He started off pretty well and he started tiring, but I thought he looked a lot more fit last night. It was 166 pounds or something in the catch weight. And yes, I thought he won the fight. I thought he won the fight 115, 113. I think I scored it the same as Kurt. He took it on clean punches on my card. Stieglitz was obviously working hard, but I thought Sturm's defence was excellent last night. He was catching a lot of these shots, and particularly Sturm's body work, where he was coming in with the uppercut to the body. And obviously his right hand's amazing, so that was landing as well. So great fight.
Technically, Sturm was a far cleaner and effective fighter.
Man. Well. I love watching Sturm fight. I think he's a great boxer.
How would you see a Sturm Abraham fight going?
I would actually back Sturm to beat him because I think Sturm's got underrated chin. Actually, I mean, I think he got rocked with a left hook in about the 4th or the 5th round from Stieglitz. Now, I think as well as if you look at it, the catch weight that Adam touched upon last week, I think the catch weight was actually more beneficial to him because Stieglitz, in my opinion, looked like the bigger man in the ring on the night.
He did look the big guy, and I actually think we mentioned it last week or the week before that it might not be a good fight that's due to the stars, but if Sturm fights like that, I mean, he will stand in front of Abraham as well, and he's going to let his hands go. And I just think that Abraham will obviously fancy the knockout himself, I think, but I think that's a good fight. But I think Sturm will is favourite on a points decision, in my opinion.
Abraham can barely beat Paul Smith. Come on, he's not going to beat Felix Sturm, is he?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to knock Sturm out. Sturm's got a pretty decent.
Smith.
Well, when Abraham last fought Stieglitz, I kind of saw the same thing you guys were saying about the contrast in styles and clean work. I thought he really looked good in that third fight compared to some of his other performances lately. Straights and overall, just I thought that his boxing was much improved, but then against Paul Smith, obviously that didn't look as good.
Abraham's got a wee bit of the Eubank syndrome where sometimes he just doesn't turn up. You think he's short, then he'll produce a good performance.
Yes, he is short though. Yeah, sure. You see that to Eddie Hearn on Thursday night. He's short.
He isn't
He's a mess now, and he to be fair.
But I think he has looked good in 1 or 2 fights lately.
You also have to ask yourself how much Stieglitz has left too. I mean, what's the measuring stick for Sturm at this point in time?
I think he's got more left in Sturm.
Definitely. Stieglitz looked good last night as well. You've got to feel bad for Stieglitz. He's involved in these close fights all the time, and it's not very often he's getting the decision, is it?
The problem with Stieglitz is he's just not as good as Sturm. I don't think he's good as technically as Sturm. Sturm just, as he always does, he blows his load in the first sort of 6 rounds, goes away at it, and then he sort of goes a bit conservative and a bit defensive in the later rounds. But Stieglitz, he's got a good tank on him, and he just went for it the whole fight, and he nicked the round simply because of his workload.
On the Steve, I'll go to you, mate, with the Channel 5 card. Just give us a brief summary as to what happened on that card, because I haven't had a chance to see it yet.
You're missing out big time, so I'd go and put it on right now if I was you.
Yeah, okay. Put that up for me, mate.
Well, it wasn't too bad, no. I mean, I've seen worse. It was unfortunate in the main event that Dickinson pulled out for a start, because I thought the main event was going to be a pretty good fight. We saw Dickinson against Matty Clarkson, who ended up being in the final, and that was brilliant. And he had to withdraw this week with a leg injury, apparently, which I thought was unfortunate, especially so close to the final. It's just another kick in the balls for Hennessy, isn't it? Nothing seems to be going his way at the moment, but Clarkson deserved the slot in the final because he'd been in the semis, but he was a class below Bob Ajisafe. Ajisafe's a pretty dull fighter. He's a southpaw. He's very skillful and he's effective in what he does, I think, but he's quite negative at times, and Clarkson just couldn't handle his power, and he took a couple of shots in round 1, and I thought Clarkson might be in it for the long haul, but after the class told after about the second round, and it's been a good tournament overall, this one. I think it's provided some really good fights. Dean Francis and Ajisafe in the first round, I don't know if you remember that one, that was a real good fight. So let me think who else was on this. Lenny Dawes was on the show as well, but that was a bit of a strange one. He got a really bad cut doors, and he eventually stopped the French guy in the 10th round, I think it was, but it was a joke stoppage. The referee just had enough of the French guy's antics and threw him out, and those are the two main fights, really. I think Eddie Chambers was on too.
I heard he was actually pretty poor. I think
overweight as well.
Peter Fury mentioned something on Twitter that was very poor. Adam, mate, I think you saw the card. Give me your brief summary on that one.
Well, I think the first thing to mention is this was a light heavyweight final of a tournament that has been largely successful. Ajisaf came in at 13 stone 5, and Clarkson came in at 13.11, both miles away from the light heavyweight limit. We can give Clarkson the excuse, because it was late notice, but I don't think Ajisaf's got any excuse for coming in nearly a stone over. I thought that was poor. Went largely unnoticed. I thought Clarkson started well. He threw some really nice, right crosses on the inside in the first couple of rounds, like Steve said, but it was quite clear that he was blowing. Obviously, had the far from ideal build-up. It was quite clear that it was blowing, and I think Ajisaf, he does fancy himself a bit as a bit of a skill stud, but I mean, obviously coming from the Ingle gym. But I think if he sits down on his punches, especially that left hand, he could do some damage, and has done some damage in this tournament. So, but I think it was clear that Clarkson was blowing. And me and my mate loaded up on the fight not to go the distance, betting him running, and it paid off quite well because we placed the bet, and within 30 or 40 seconds, Clarkson was sitting on the stool and didn't come off it. So that was it. But yeah, decent tournament. Unlucky that the main event didn't go ahead.
Dave the Hater, the NBC card, brutal knockout by Hardcore Mansour.
Yeah, it was a pretty good card. No huge names on it, but there were two Russian prospects, both of them pretty fun to watch. The first fight on the card was what's his name? Jackson Jr. against a Russian guy. Let me look him up here. Anyway,
Vasily Lipkin or something.
Yes, Lipkin. So yeah, he won that fight by unanimous decision. Didn't look quite as good as I thought he was going to look, being touted as this very powerful, very impressive Russian star in the making, that is. But he got the win. He looks like one of those guys who can do very well if he stays on the outside, but has a tendency to mix it up too much. Then the second fight was my homeboy, Ronald Cruz from Bethlehem, PA. He got back in there with a guy who really reminds me of Vasily Girov, with his swarming, constant style, but he's not a huge puncher. But he got the job done against poor Cruz. Although Cruz looked a lot better with his new trainer than I've seen him look in the past. Dmitry Mikhailenko, he's 17-0, now 18-0 since his win last night. He's going to be very fun to watch. He's going to be a force at welterweight or junior middleweight. I guess last night he was at junior middleweight. But keep an eye on him because he throws a lot of punches. He stays active, and he just loves to fight. The main event, obviously, was a bounce-back fight for Amir Mansour. It was probably the worst fight of the night until the ending. Mansour was not looking great. I mean, I guess he never looks very great until he's knocking somebody out. But he was winning the rounds mostly on activity, not landing anything too impressive, wailing big shots. The finish came with a wild overhand left because he's a southpaw, which kind of just glanced off of Cassie. But then he mixes in this short, very, very short right hook, nails him right in the chin, and he just folded up face down. It was actually pretty scary for a bit. They had the paramedics in there. Everyone was gathering around him. He was out cold for a good minute at least, and then he woke up and they still had him down. They were going to carry him out on the stretcher. Fortunately, he did get up, and no lasting damage appeared to have been done. But Mansour's good entertainment if you want to see a knockout. But I mean, if he can't deal with a guy like Cassie, I mean, Cassie he's got some craft to him, and he had some.
It sounds like Dave's Chinese brothers trying to get the dinner ready.
We don't eat dogs in the U.S.
Sadly, this is live, so nothing can be done about that.
I'm not sure what you guys are implying.
All right,
here.
well, I'll stop talking about this fight anyway. It wasn't that great, but it was a good stoppage.
Did you live next to a vet hospital as a youth?
Probably medical research going on down in that basement just now, actually. Just Thursday past there, Osvaldo Novia lost his WBC strawweight title against Wanheng Menathoyan in Thailand. Actually, another good little scrap. Osvaldo pulled out at the end of the 9th round, or just before the start of the 9th round. I think it was a pretty brutal fight at the end of the day. Kurt, I think if medical research have now found the cure for insomnia, all you got to do is just look at that video of that fight between Thomas Adamek and Arthur Spilker. Absolute and utter shitfest, wasn't it? And that's pay-per-view as well.
Spilker was the better the night.
Was he?
Well, I mean, Adamek was odds on. I don't care. I don't care who was fighting. I was going to back the other bloke. Adamek's well past it. He's 38 years old now. He's lost a few fights in. Recently had to take advantage.
Kurt, mate, I think the less said about this fight, the better, in all honesty.
I mean, yeah, it's just like one last payday, I suppose. Two Polish guys fighting. He drew a good crowd, but I think Adamek said afterwards that that's him done now. He's had a good career coming from light heavyweight all the way up. He had a good win over Areola that no one expected. He got himself a world title shot, against Vitali, but he got his title shot that he wanted. He couldn't get the job done, but he's had a good career, been in some good fights, and I think he should retire now. You don't see him just going along the heavyweight scene, just taking beatings off guys who really. They're not nowhere near him in his prime.
Is that Adamek now retired now, yeah?
Yeah, he said afterwards that he thinks that's him done now.
I was wondering why Adamek skipped over cruiserweight because, last night I was thinking
he fought cruiserweight.
But he didn't really do much there. He was at 175.
Cunningham.
He beat Cunningham, aye.
Yeah, I thought he could have reigned there.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I just think it's a typical story with the cruiserweights. As soon as they get there, they want the big money fights, and that's the heavyweight division. I know people mock the heavyweight division, but that's where the big money is. If you look at all of them, David Haye, Adamek, they always move up.
Just having a quick look through his resume at cruiserweight. It's not the greatest. Jonathan Banks.
He knocked out Jonathan Banks. He beat
O'Neal
Cunningham
Bell
for the lineal title, I believe.
I mean, that fight with Cunningham was really good, and it should have had a rematch because it was very close, too.
They did have a rematch.
Heavyweight, yeah.
Yeah, at heavyweight, years later.
Talking of cruiserweights moving up, fellas, loser of the Liverpool card moves up to cruiserweight. Normal British excuse.
I tell you what, actually, I
said it months ago.
Value against Vlad, it's as simple as that.
I seen potentially talk about Roy Jones. Can you imagine him fighting the winner of that fight for the WBO cruiserweight title?
Is this a serious question now? Who would not give Roy Jones a chance against Tony Bellew? Seriously,
no one.
I think you're crazy.
I think even the bomber would splatter him like.
It'd be vicious, mate.
Bellew was worried about Edison Miranda. I think Roy's looking alright lately, I think. He's alright.
Did you watch the Courtney Fry fight?
Yes, I did.
Oh man, that was painful to watch that.
Just noticed
you almost forgot.
Just noticed that Adamek fight was for the vacant Republic of Poland international heavyweight title.
If that's on the November 22nd pay-per-view, I'm buying.
Good.
There is somebody else on the new pay-per-view. Did you see that? Some German puncher or something's been added to it now.
Definitely buying it now.
Yeah, thought you would.
That's basically the end of the fight reviews. At this point in the time, just to let listeners know, is on the download section of the podcast. At this point, you'll hear an interview that me and Alex did just about an hour ago with Scottish flyweight contender Ian Butcher, who had that narrow defeat against Kevin Satchell for the British title. So at this moment in time, this is where you'll hear the interview.
Butcher robbed.
He was robbed. Box Asylum listeners, with us today, we've got Ian Butcher, a 22-year-old Scottish flyweight contender out of Motherwell. Ian, it's good to speak to you, mate. First off the bat is the first, I think maybe the wide range of British boxing fans, actually, the first time we probably saw you was probably that close defeat you had against Kevin Satchell. Now, I've not got any national bias here, mate. I thought you personally won that fight by a couple of points. What is your recollection of that fight?
To be honest, it's never ever left my mind. As I say, everywhere I go, I'm always reminded of the fight. And as you say, most of the British boxing fans and even people just interested in watching boxing, that was the first time they'd seen me. So I'm always reminded of it. And the lead up to the fight, everything went great, and we had a game plan. We went into the fight. And I'm in the same boat as yourself. If I thought I lost it, I would admit I lost, because I wouldn't do myself any favours saying to myself I won when I knew another. I thought I won by 2 rounds, and then the knockdown I thought I won it by 3 points. But as I say, it's that since the loss, I've progressed a bit further in my career, and it's done me the world a good. Although I don't think I lost, I still class it as a win on my record. Just a bad night on the judges' scorecard. I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, obviously as well, I think just before we get into the actual potential rematch, what is your promotional situation just now? You signed up with Matchroom, or is it Frank Warren?
No, I'm actually a free agent at the moment. I'm managed by MGM, Daniel Kinahan.
You're over in Marbella, yeah?
Yeah, I'm based over in Marbella now, and I'm working out alongside all them. But at the current scene, we're just talks at the moment. I think the potential route we're going down is the Frank Warren route. I think Frank's more interested with having Kevin signed in the Paul Butler situation and things like that. So there's a big potential in the future for mega fights here at the flyweight and super flyweight division.
I was going to say, mate, listen, I've got quite a lot of interest in the flyweight division. In my personal opinion, I think the flyweight division is probably the best division in the whole of boxing. Like, think about like the international scene, guys like Gonzalez and all those sort of guys as well. But just going back to the domestic level, did you watch Kevin Satchel's fight against Valerie Yanshi a couple of weeks back?
Yeah, I actually watched it on the night, and my coach Danny Vaughan, he was actually there with Derry on the undercard, so we kind of exchanged texts back and forward, and I was watching the fight live as well. But it's no disrespect for Kevin. I thought he did what he had to do, but Valerie Yanshi is an old man, and he's 37-year-old. He was tough, I thought.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, I thought Kevin should have got him out of there through age, and he's not really an active fighter, Valerie. Before I had the rematch with Kevin earlier in the year, I actually had that fight lined up. I was getting a crack at the European title, and when I got the rematch with Kevin, I actually pulled out for boxing for the European title, because the rematch with Kevin interested me more. But I was banned for the European committee for a 12-month ban, because I pulled out the fight with no valuable excuse or injury or anything like that. So it was a fight that we had, and we let go to get the rematch, and then obviously Kevin pulled out of the rematch with myself to box for the European title through injury. I think he gave in a sore ankle note to the British Boxing Board of Control.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, actually. I know the rematch was apparently, I think you got an offer from Frank Warren again. I get the rematch, John. So I thought it was yourself actually was injured in that fight, but it was actually Kevin Satchel was injured.
Yeah, well, the fight was we actually made an offer for Frank Warren, but at the time when I was with Paul Graham, we had a good sponsor at the backing of us, and a good friend of the family and stuff was willing to put the money up and get the purse bids to win it up here, which we actually put in purse bids, and we lost by £1,000. We were told we actually lost by £1,000. We were told. So the rematch was meant to happen, and then I think with about 4 weeks to go, we got a phone call from the board saying that Kevin had handed in a sick note with a broken ankle or a fractured ankle. But as I say, then again, a couple of weeks later, he announced he has his European title fight. So you'll probably know yourself, for loads of politics in boxing. I don't believe for a minute that Kevin was injured. And it's business, and if I was in Kevin's shoes, I would have took the European title fight, because in my personal opinion, it's an easier fight for good money, and it's another belt that he could add to his collection. So in business, he done the right sense. But as I say, on the other hand, I think I've kind of avoided the fight with myself for the past 6 to 9 months there.
Yeah, I spoke to you on Twitter actually. I think I messaged you maybe about 8-10 months ago, and I actually asked you what the latest was with the Satchel fight, and you personally thought as he wouldn't take the rematch. I was talking to Paddy Barnes actually. I don't know if you actually agree with him, but do you think it's harder to win a European title at amateur level than it is in the professional ranks?
I would say so myself, because it just depends. And as I say, the European flyweight title, when Kevin was going to box for the title, to me it wasn't a hard opponent he had. It was just a tough, old school opponent he had in front of him. If he had boxed the right fight for the first round, I think he could have tired the Yallery out and stopped him late rounds. I think he met him in the middle of the ring and he blew his tank a wee bit, I think, Kevin. But as I say, with the right game plan, I think it was an easy fight for him to win the belt. But I would agree with Paddy that it's a lot harder in the amateurs. It just depends on what champions are about in the professional ranks. I would say, I wouldn't say all the time, but 60-40%, I would say it is a lot harder in the amateurs.
I tell you, just a wee fact for you actually. See, since 1903, from the British title came into existence at flyweight, there's only been 84 fights, and if you had beat Kevin Satchell, you'd have been the 10th Scottish fighter to actually win the title, believe it or not.
Yeah. I would actually have made, if I'd won it as well, I think I would have been the youngest person or something like that to win it as well. I think, was it Ryan Rhodes or somebody like that?
Right.
I think there was somebody along the lines as well, but no, it would have been good to win the British title when I had the first chance round like I thought I did, yeah.
You've obviously mixed in decent level, amateur level, mate. I mean, you're obviously part of the GB setup down in Sheffield as well, obviously mixing the likes of Andrew Selby and Luke Campbell and all the guys. What was it like training down the GB squad?
It's the best setup you could really ask for. As I say, that the boys are really looked after down there. You're paid to do what you love doing. You've got quality sparring, so you're never ever looking for sparring partners or just sparring for the sake of sparring, boys in the gym and stuff like that. They've got a good strength conditioning team around them down there. They've got everything. They've got the physio, things like that all down there. It's a quality setup, and as I say, I was part of the GB squad for a long time, and it was really, really good. As I say, I was mixing with all the boys as well. Some of them were going to more prestigious tournaments than I was going, and then I was in sparring with them when they were back in camp. So you're always mixing with top boys, and you can only learn from it. And if the chance came, like a couple of times I went to the European Championships when I was only 17. No, I was actually 16, I think. I was a youth, and I got a bronze medal. It was just there was a prestigious tournament before it, and they didn't think I was ready. They thought I was still a bit too young for it, and then they sent me to the European Youth, and I got a bronze medal. I performed well through the qualifying stages and the split, things like that, and I got the bronze medal. So it just shows if you get the right openings that you can, and if you take it with both hands, then there's a reward at the end of it for you.
Definitely, mate. Who would you say is probably your toughest or hardest opponent in the arms? Would it be Paddy Barnes?
No, I actually thought Paddy Barnes, I wouldn't say that he ran away from me or anything. I think I'd sparred Paddy prior to that in a training camp, before we left to go to Delhi, and he was a lot heavier than me in sparring, and he kind of bullied me a bit. But when we were both at the same weight, I thought I was more stronger than Paddy. But yeah, but that was a hard fight mentally for me as well. I was only 17 in Delhi, and that is, as I say, we'd sit down and we had a group meeting with the Scotland team, and that was a boy that was picked out for me, kind of not to pull in the draw at the first stages, and that was who I got. So before the fight, mentally I was still young, and then with the discussion with the Scotland team and that was the boy they didn't want me to pull, and then I pulled him. So mentally I was a bit down as well on that before I went in, but that was a hard fight as well, yeah.
I take it you've obviously sparred with the likes of Andrew Selby. Were you surprised at his, I wouldn't say lack of showing, but were you surprised at the big upset against Rhys McFadden in the Commonwealths?
To be honest, no. I already said to folk before the games kicked off, if Andrew Selby's mind wasn't on the job, he wouldn't perform. Because when we went to Delhi prior to that, he boxed around Cannes, and everybody had Andrew Selby winning before he even boxed around Cannes, and he didn't show up. And that was the exact same thing there. He didn't show up on the day, and he messed about a bit and things like that, and he lost, and he paid for it in the ring. So I already said to kind of people asking me before it, could Rhys beat him? If he got him on the right day, I think he would beat him, yeah. But in 8 out of 10 fights, I reckon Andrew Selby would beat Rhys. But that's no disrespect to Rhys. Rhys took it with both hands on the day, and he beat him well. So it was really well done for Rhys.
Just before I hand you over to my colleague Alex, which just quick comments on the likes, the gold medals won by Josh Taylor, and obviously the funny character that's Charlie Flynn as well.
Yeah, well, Josh, as I say, I travelled a very long time with Josh, and he actually got into the GB squad as I was just leaving. I was with him on the squad for about 6 weeks. I travelled the world with Josh. He's a quality guy, and I think he'll go all the way even when he turns professional, or if he goes to Rio. I think he's got a medal in him in the Olympics or anything like that. And if he turns pro, I reckon he could make it as well if he was the right back and the right team at supporting him when he did it. And Charlie, I don't really see much of Charlie, but that was a big upset in the games, and including myself, expected Charlie to win gold. I thought he could medal, but I didn't think he could get gold. I thought there was boys in there that were a better talent, but it just goes to show you, Charlie, if you want it hard enough and that much, then you'll get it.
I think there's rumours going about that Josh might actually turn over. I think, I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that he maybe turn over, or maybe get announced next couple of weeks that he might turn pro. Alex, mate, I think you want to bring up some comments on the flyweight division and some other boxing matters as well, mate.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about, domestically, the flyweight and super flyweight scene's getting, increasing a lot. We've got a lot of quality talents coming through now. Obviously, yourself, Kevin Satchell. I was going to ask, what did you think of, what's your opinion of Carol Yafai and Paul Butler at the moment?
I think the two of them are progressing really fast. Matchroom and Frank Warren have got both them boxing on a regular basis and at a high level. So I think more on Yafai's part, I think he's going to just miss out the domestic scene, and I don't think they have a European title at super flyweights. I think he's went down the IBF international route and he's going to chase the IBF world title. I think he's gone more down that route. So as I say, if you've got the right back, and then you can be pushed forward and progress as fast. And with Kel boxing at a high level as an amateur, he already had a good level of boxing ability and boxing at a high level, so he could be pushed forward a bit more. And Paul Butler was in the same level. He nearly qualified for Beijing and stuff like that. So they boys can push forward a bit. And Paul Butler's box for the British Commonwealth, he did it the proper way and things like that. So the both of them are pushing really forward and fast in their careers, which I wish them all the best in.
How did you think? How did you score the Butler-Stuart Hall fight?
I thought Paul Butler, I think he died in the last couple of rounds, but I still thought he did enough at the start. I thought one round to round 8, I thought Paul Butler was in control, maybe only lost a couple of rounds, but I thought he was in control and using the right tactics. As Stuart Hall's really big for bantamweight, so I think Paul stuck to the right game plan, hitting and moving and just in and out rather than getting caught up in a wee bit of a trade with Stuart Hall with the size difference. So actually, I thought Paul Butler won it by 2 rounds when I watched it, yeah.
Yeah, I had Butler by about a round, I think. Again, I think it was just a case of bigger size from Stewie Hall. Just going to ask, did you watch the Kovalev-Hopkins fight last night?
No, actually never. I had my little boy, so we were tucked up in bed early.
Fair enough, mate, fair enough.
Ian, I was just going to ask me. Obviously you've covered obviously a lot of the amateurs. Obviously the rules are actually changing now, obviously with no headguard. Do you think would you prefer to have actually competed without the headguard on?
No, I actually got to a point in my career where I went to Delhi and the only way I was going to get to a chance to qualify for Olympics was staying at light flyweight, which was far too hard for me. The things that I was asked to do was kind of crazy in my opinion, so I chose to step up to flyweight, and at the kind of time I get told I wouldn't have my chance to qualify with Andrew Selby and Carol Yafai being around at the time, and as much money was invested into them, they were the two boys in the running for it. So at that stage in my career, to get myself motivated, I needed a new chapter, and that was the route I went down, turning pro. As I say, the headguards coming off in amateurs, me personally, I don't agree with, as there's many boys in amateur clubs I've been in that are leaving the amateur sport because they don't want to be involved. I think they've took away the fun side of it and the hobby side of the amateur career, but for some boys it will suit better than other boys.
I know what you're saying. I think like Mick Conlon was actually, I think he was very lucky in the Commonwealth. I think he got cut around about the quarter-final stage, and he was kind of lucky to just get through the final, mate. The other thing as well is, obviously, I don't know if you get a chance, obviously, with the flyweight division being international, Japan, Mexico and stuff, do you actually get a chance to watch some of the top-end characters in the division?
Yeah, I've actually seen a few of them. I've seen Estrada, the boy who boxes in America. I think he's Spanish, but he's over in America. I've watched Brian Varola, and there's a South African boy I've watched. I've actually been offered. I got offered to box him just before I split for Paul Graham.
Is that
for
Mataluna?
The IBO. That Mataluna, yeah. I got offered to box him for the IBO world title, but at that point I was just transferring for managers and things like that, and I just boxed, so it wasn't quite a right time for me and stuff like that. So I've watched a couple of the boys, and I think, to be honest, me personally is in the same boat as yourself. I think the flyweights is a really hard division when you go international and things like that, and it will be hard to win world titles and things, especially with the amount of international bodies that are kicking about at a high level of boxing.
It's unbelievable, actually, because I did a bit of research into them just in the middle of this year, or start of this year, actually. I think anyone from the top 15 to top 20 have got a chance of winning a version of the world title.
Yeah, it's as I say, it's a really the level of boxing, as you say, in the top 15 to 20, it's a really high level. It's not like you could pick somebody at number 14 in the division and it'll be an easy fight. I think they are all hard fights. So it wouldn't matter what route you go down. I think it will be a hard fight for any British, or as I say, anybody that's going up for the world titles. It'll be a hard fight for them.
Obviously, I mean, you're managed by MGM now. What is your plan for you? I mean, do they just try and keep building up towards that British rematch, or is it going to be a European title? Maybe even try and get some Mexicans across to try and build you up to world level?
Well, I've hung off. I was actually managing the position since the start of the year there, so we've hung off till now, and then Kevin's just boxed there. So there's a board meeting on Thursday. This Thursday coming, and I'm hoping that he's stripped to the title. If not, the title goes vacant, because I'm still managing the position, and I've read a few reports that Kevin's planning on defending the European title, so he would need to give up the British title regardless of it anyway. But if the offer came along for me to fight Kevin for the British, the Commonwealth and the European title, then I'd happily take the fight in a heartbeat. It's not a fight that I'm fazed by, and like I've said all along, I would happily fight Kevin any time whenever he feels ready or his team feel ready that they want the rematch. But me personally, I don't think I'll get the rematch till it's worthwhile with a world title at stake or loads of money dangled in front of him. But as I say, it's something I'd be willing to do. But at the present moment, I'm just trying to get another fight before the British title fight comes along. I think my manager says we're planning the British title fight for the start of March or the end of February, but I think I'm going to try and get an 8-rounder or a 10-rounder for December to keep myself a bit fresh, rather than, because I've not boxed in about 4 or 5 months, so I need another fight to keep the rust off me and stuff like that and keep me in the gym.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually what the future plan was. I mean, what actually happens if Satchel vacates the British? Who would be your challenger for the vacant title?
I don't actually know at the minute, because I was ordered last November, I think, to box Luke Bolton from Belfast in an eliminator, and then that fell through. It never happened. He pulled out for whatever reasons, and it never happened. And then there was Lewis Norman, I think, was calling me out, and a couple others in the division, but I've not heard anything lately about that. But I think Cal Yafai was meant to box Luke Bolton in Dublin next week on the Sky Sports show, but I'm seeing now that Luke Bolton's not boxing him, so I'm just wondering if Luke Bolton's heard anything behind the scenes that he might be next in line for the British title against myself. So I'm wondering if he's pulled out through that maybe. So I would assume personally it would be Luke Bolton from Belfast, but as I say, I can't guarantee it or say for definite that it will be him.
You've obviously sparred Ricky Burns. I think he says that he's probably the toughest or probably the best opponent you've faced. I've seen Ricky spar myself in the gym. The guy, his work ethic at the time as world champion was unbelievable. Just in your opinion, how good was he to spar against?
Yeah, I've sparred loads of high quality operators. I've did many rounds with Paul Butler. I sparred with him for my full camp for the British title with Kevin. I've sparred Scott Quigg, Ricky Burns as well. But as I say, Ricky was a really hard spar, and it's funny you say that. I've did all of John Simpson's sparring for his fight next week in Dublin, and I would actually say, I was just going to say he's looking sharp. He's took the camp serious. I think he knows. I think he knows himself deep down that if he loses, his kind of career's over or he needs to retire. But he's took it serious. I was in him Friday there, and his weight's spot on. He's not got weight issues. He's told me he's did the camp 100. He's given it 100% anyway, and I've did plenty of rounds with him, and he's looking good and strong. So, out of all my hard sparring, as you're saying about Ricky Burns there, he was really, really good spar for me. He's a big lightweight, and as you say, his work ethic is it's a high pace the whole way through the sparring. But as I say, I sparred with John for that camp there, and I would probably say as a pro, that's been my toughest spar. That was really up there with tough spars.
I like Simi a lot, actually. I mean, I've seen Simi spar Carol Frampton when Frampton was maybe like a 5-0 pro prospect. I just think I was disappointed. The fact is that he was used against like John Murray and Tommy Coyle as cannon fodder, because he's not a lightweight, mate. Simi's a featherweight, a legit featherweight, not a lightweight. So I like to see him maybe try and get maybe a shot at the European title or some sort of fringe world title level. But it's a shame that he's been up to lightweight and used as cannon fodder, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, as I say, I've been through with him for about 4 or 5 weeks now sparring, and as I say, we sit and we have chats and that, and he's kind of on the same boat. That is, he feels that to be honest, he isn't a lightweight. He's really, really small for that weight. He's probably, as you say, more of a featherweight, and this fight he's boxing next week at 17 stone 3, so it's super featherweight, but near the featherweight limit, so he's down at his natural weight, like he's saying to me, and he says if he doesn't win, then he needs to really have a serious think about his career, because he took his camp serious, did all the preparation that he needs to do, and it's back down to his natural weight. So, and as I say, he was looking top notch in the gym, and I wish him all the best next week. I think he could go out there, and if he sticks to the right game plan which he's been working on, then I think he could win as well. Yeah.
Good stuff, mate. Listen, obviously, we appreciate your time, mate. I mean, if anybody wants to get in contact with you, where's the best place for people to kind of get in contact and chat with you?
If you just drop me a message, anybody that's interested in getting in contact, you could just drop me a message on Twitter or Facebook, or if I've got my number, just drop me a little text, and if I've got time, I'll respond back whenever I can, when I've got the time to do that. And
you're hoping to be back in the ring, hopefully, by the end of the year, yeah?
Yeah, well, as I say, I had a fight scheduled for about 6 weeks ago on Dave Codwell's show, and it fell through. It never happened the night before, I get told. But I'm hoping for an 8 round in December. I'm just waiting on my manager getting back to me. He says he'll have it confirmed in the next couple of days if it's happening or not. So hopefully I find out this week.
No problem, mate. We'll keep an eye out for you. Listen, Ian, we really appreciate your time, mate. We'll let you get going now. Seeing it's Sunday evening, we'll let you spend time with your family. But thanks a lot for your time, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Thanks the best. All the best for the future, eh?
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Yourself. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So hopefully he's enjoyed that interview with Ian Butcher. Now I think we've got a caller coming on shortly. Kurt, what's his name? Is it Chris Blackman?
Yeah, we'll just add him now.
No worries. What's he want to discuss?
I think he's talking about the upcoming pay-per-view, Eddie Hearn, Hopkins. He'll be happy to talk about anything, I think.
Alright, no worries.
That pay-per-view card's excellent value for money, by the way, lads.
Which one?
We haven't discussed it in recent weeks. You know, the November the 22nd one in Liverpool.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Can't wait.
Who's on that one?
The Bomber.
Stacked.
Oh, the Bomber.
Stacked.
I'm buying.
Yeah, it's stacked, yeah.
I think we've got one on the line. Are you there, Chris?
Hi, Andy. You right, mate?
Not bad, mate. How are you doing?
Nice one. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. It's the first time I've got to call in ages because
good to hear from
I'm
you.
always at work and stuff.
What can we do for you, mate?
Oh, just call, it's the first chance I've had to call, so I thought I'd give it a try and see how you lads are getting on. You're talking about the pay-per-view now at the moment.
Yeah, well, they'd obviously covered it with Eddie Hearn on Thursday there.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, I think I don't know. Well, the feedback's been pretty positive. I think some people are not happy the kind of tone or maybe the line of questioning. We were just kind of like jumping in on them, but I didn't think we wanted them to kind of basically hog the interview, shall we say, just kind of like take over. So we wanted to make sure that it was our interview and it was on our terms. I don't know what you thought about it.
Too long there, wasn't it? It was too long.
Yeah.
Should have only been
No,
7 minutes.
it wasn't too long. It was a perfect interview. You didn't let him get away with anything. You know, like you said to Coogan, he always lets it like plays the friend and all that stuff. But you just put it to him clearly, and sometimes he screwed up with his answers, like he does on the interviews on YouTube. So good, fair play to you.
Cheers, mate. What did you think about last night's fights?
Do you know what I thought? I agree with the scorecards, 120, 107, but I think fair play to Hopkins for taking the fight. So all around, I thought it was pretty decent performance from Kovalev. But it's to be expected. I think he was the betting favourite, wasn't he? Like 2-1 on sort of before the fight, was he?
Adam will tell you that. What was the odds there, mate?
Hopkins was 2-1.
Kovalev was backed Friday, Saturday. There was a lot of money for Kovalev, and he went off at 4-11. And I know that one fella had one of our customers had £500 on Kovalev on points at 4-1. So he's a very happy man today.
He listened to me last week.
I know, yeah, true.
Nice. Do you know what? Because I always go for the wrong predictions. I was going to put money on Kovalev points because I thought that's not what's going to happen. But then it come close. That's what happened. So, but obviously he nearly knocked him out in the 12th. Yeah, I thought fair play to the ref for not stopping it. To be honest,
I just put a stoppage over here, wouldn't it?
That's what I said. I just said on the chat. that over here. He would have been stopped in the first round on the knockout, even though it was bad balance. I just thought it was bad. It was a good shot, but I think he was a bit off balance, wasn't he? His sort of feet were together, weren't they?
He was lunging forwards off the ropes.
I think he was square on at the time the punch landed as well, eh?
Mm.
I think on the 12th round, we can't have sentimental value or any other outside influence coming into when you're looking at a stoppage. We're talking about someone else's life in the grand scale of things. I thought it was pretty dangerous.
I agree with you, Adam. I think he should have stopped it too.
I was of the same opinion, actually. I mean, I really, as I said earlier on, I really feared for Hopkins' life at one point, just the way he was getting battered about the place.
I wish there was another round to go.
I am quite a big fan.
Was anyone else disappointed that Kovalev didn't throw more uppercuts? It seems like that could have been the game changer throughout the fight, and he just never utilized one at mid-range.
Barely saw one, did we, at all, really?
I don't think he wanted to stay in too close with Hopkins. I think his tactics were spot on. If
you can't throw an uppercut for distance, eh? So
I tell you where we did see some uppercuts.
Punch perfect.
Felix Sturm throwed some nice uppercuts. Sorry, I'm going off topic, but he threw some beautiful uppercuts last night.
I've never seen that fight. How was it? Was it a good fight? Or?
Very good fight, mate. Listen, if you haven't seen the fight, you need to go and watch it. I'll tell you what, as soon as you're on the chat just now, we'll post it up for you in the chat. You can watch it. Honestly, it was a really good fight.
Thanks, mate.
Really good
I'm up
fight.
for that, definitely. I haven't had much. I got in at 2:00 last night from DJing, and I woke up for the Hopkins fight, and I woke up about the 5th, 6th round, and I thought, because I didn't know obviously that the knockdown had happened then, and I thought, oh, typical Hopkins, he's just avoiding everything. He's like putting up a game fight. And then when I woke up in the morning, saw the result, I was like, yeah, I wasn't sure how it was going. But yeah, it looked pretty decent fight. But now I've seen it all the way through. I think, like you're saying, the ref should have stopped it, maybe.
If I woke up this morning, I mean, I stayed up and watched it. And if I woke up, I've got a bad habit. If I go to bed and get up in the morning and the card from America has been like a few years previously, I'll check my phone and check box rate to see what the scores were. I've got a bad habit of doing it. If I did that this morning, I'd looked at that fight and said to myself, how the hell did Kovalev win by that margin? This is Bernard Hopkins we're talking about here. Why did he not blast him out? How did Hopkins not win a few rounds here? What the fuck happened, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do when I wake up in the morning. I'll be honest, I'm not kissing arse, but I check you guys, what you've said while you've been watching it. Like scroll through everyone's tweets and stuff like that, and yeah, I would have been the same. Just don't check Dan Raphael, you know what I mean? But other than that,
anything else you want to discuss, mate?
Do you know what? I don't know if it's possible, but do you think the pay-per-view would be okay if it was cheaper? I know you might have said that to Eddie. I'm not sure, but if it was a tenner, I still wouldn't pay a tenner because I don't like any of them really.
It's the principle of paying for something that you don't believe is worth paying extra for, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the fact that Bellew would get some money. Like that's why I'm not paying it. He would make a quid off of me, so I'm not paying it. So I'll just watch it on the stream like you guys, you know.
Nah, I mean, I wouldn't pay £10 for it. I wouldn't pay £10 for it, no, honestly. I mean, that I think that card from Poland last night was, depending what outlet you watched it on, it was between $13 and $15 for that pay-per-view. And it was shit. I mean, it lasted for like 5-6 hours, and it was absolute turgid.
Do you remember Prime Time? They sometimes did ones for like $6.99, if you remember, like the odd pay-per-view now and again. So maybe
that's fair enough. Obviously, Sky would like want to milk everyone's wallet for all they can. But for 17 quid, I nearly bloody dropped the phone when I saw that. So, yeah, I was pretty pissed off. That's what I'm more pissed off about. I would like to see Callum Smith and, well, that's about it, really, to be honest. I do like Quigg, so I would like to watch that, but obviously I'll see it on the laptop instead.
As I say, I think Eddie Hearn has said in the past that he didn't want to have like his prospects buried in pay-per-view cards and limit their exposure. Well, in this instance, Smith is still a prospect and he's getting buried in an undercard of a pay-per-view, so it's going to limit the viewing figures as well. I think he should be on the red button if they could get it back because the viewing figures are pretty low, or they should have put one maybe on that Liverpool card, or another Liverpool card, or on some sort of card anyway, that he was going to get more exposure.
Do you think Smith's ready to, not the Echo, but I don't know what else is in Liverpool? Could he headline a show now up there?
No, he couldn't headline yet.
No, not the Echo, obviously, but yeah, somewhere. I don't know what else they have there.
They've got Liverpool Olympia, which is probably half the size.
Yeah, why don't they put him on one of those Fight Pass things? What's going on with that? I mean, could they not stick one of them on headlining like a Fight Pass or something?
I mentioned this to Coogan when he was on. I was saying, Eddie should be putting fighters like, when we saw Ricky Burns in his comeback and Brian Rose in his really crappy comeback a few weeks ago. They fought absolute nobodies. That they should have been on Fight Pass in those fights. But he was saying, you'll never see Ricky Burns, Brian Rose, or Callum Smith or anyone like that on Fight Pass. So, what is it being used for? I think these, rubbish little tune-up fights should be on Fight Pass, should be on the Fight Pass shows.
I think Callum Smith
like
is
Frankie Gavin. Sorry to interrupt.
Say again, mate.
I was just saying that Frankie Gavin had a tune-up the other day, didn't he? I didn't even see it. I didn't even know he was fighting, and he had a tune-up little fight.
He did, yeah.
It's the same as Eubank as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I think Callum Smith is a point in case. There's, as you can probably guess, my work's full of sports fans, and a lot of them could be converted into boxing fans. One of them in particular always asked me about Callum Smith. And, I was saying, he's doing well, Biossi was a good matchup. And then this next one, this fella at work's not going to see it because it's on pay-per-view and he will not pay the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're losing out. Callum Smith, they're all in building fights, as I mentioned the other week. Callum Smith is building, then the next year he could be knocking on the door and potentially he's lost a few fans. But
so you shouldn't put genuine prospects on limited things like this. They should be on the undercards of good fights that are easily accessible. They shouldn't be on pay-per-view where you're hiding away. Joshua shouldn't be on pay-per-view. As much as you want to say he's a big draw and he brings people in, he shouldn't be on pay-per-view undercards because he's not there yet. He needs exposure.
See the Sky pay-per-views back in the day, going back to like the Tyson ones and that, what you used to get was like 2 or 3 fights that were free to air, and then once like the main fights were coming on, that's when the pay-per-view channel would go and
I imagine that's what they'll do with this one because they've got like about 7 or 8 fights on it, haven't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, Chris, anything else, mate?
Well, I was just going to say Joshua v Price at Vicarage Road pay-per-view. That's going to be next summer, isn't it? That'll be 20 quid. So, but yeah, I could talk all night, but I don't want to hold up. You've got probably other people to talk to in that.
We've got Asif coming on just now, mate. But listen,
nice one.
Thanks for your call, mate. I know it's your first time calling in, and hopefully you do so again.
Oh, definitely.
Cheers,
yeah, love it. Listen to the show all the time. Thanks, guys. Take care,
mate. All the best. What's Asif want to discuss, Kurt? Just while we're getting on, we want to get the first Twitter question on the road first.
Go for it.
Jack Rathbone, Matt, are you back, mate? Matty?
Yes, sir.
Was Thurman wise to turn down Rock Nation's $6 million offer?
Yes and no. If he can find a path over the next 9 months that leads him to Floyd Mayweather, it was the best decision he's ever made. If Floyd Mayweather retires without Thurman getting a chance to fight him, then it was a stupid move.
That's a good answer.
If it's a genuine $6 million offer, he's an idiot, in my opinion. You take what you can get as soon as you can get it in boxing. You didn't know what's from the corner,
Yeah, I mean, he could go in his next fight and get iced and end up having a brain injury or something, and that could be him.
Yeah, it could be in a car accident. That's him, knackered.
Was it $6 million to fight for them or to fight an individual?
Just $6 million deal.
It was $6 million to fight 3 fights, a 3 fight deal.
There you go. Asif telling us the facts. Asif, tell us, mate.
It was a £6 million from Rock Nation, I think, for a free fight deal. Now, he declined it, obviously due to Al Heyman. Now, it's a bit surprising because boxing can be a very short career. And £6 million is a lot of money $6 million is a lot of money to turn down.
Well, $6 million, isn't it?
They gave him a $2 million advance, I believe.
Yeah,
$2 million
life-changing
upfront.
money. Life-changing money. Anyway, I see if you're on the line, mate. What would you want to discuss with us?
Well, I'm a first-time caller. I've listened to your show a couple of times.
Good to have you on.
And I'm mainly a heavyweight fan. So there were a few fights on the weekend that were pretty one-sided. I watched the Spilker against Adamek fight. It wasn't that bad, actually. It wasn't that bad because Spilker, for one, he actually used his head. If you watch his past few fights, he just goes gun blazing without using his brain. But he did use his head a bit. And yes, I do agree Adamek is past it now. I think he did announce his retirement now, so that's good. So it was a good victory for Spilker for what it was worth.
Did you get a chance to see the Glasgow fight, mate? Do you rate him at all?
Glasgow, I did rate him until he struggled in his previous fight against Derek Rossi, who got knocked out by Ole Harrison in prize fighter final, if you remember him. Glasgow is difficult. I know he's got a couple of good wins. I know I'm not too sure. I'm not sold on him yet because he couldn't beat that Malik Scott. He just beaten Adamek, but as you can see, Adamek is on the way down. So I don't rate Glasgow.
Malik Scott schooled him.
I don't think Adamek could get his punches off last night. It was like punching through treacle last night. I felt Adamek.
No, I think it was obviously Spilker the southpaw, and Spilker is a right. He did a good job. His jab was good, and he had a good right jab as well. I mean, a right cross hook as well. But he did. I think Adamek's face was pretty bruised up at the end of it. But and the other fights were pretty not so important. Eddie Chambers won, but he wasn't impressive. Ahmed Mansour won. That was a nice little comeback fight for him. But the big fight for me is going to be this weekend. I'm a very big Vladimir Klitschko fan.
Oh God!
Fight of the century.
Was that you, Kurt? Was that you that just made that wee silly girly voice?
That was Kelly Maloney on the line.
He's fighting Kubrat Pulev, who's got a very good resume, and I think he's since David Hay, Povetkin, and Pulev is one of the best fighters Vladimir can fight. I think Vladimir will win. He'll win out.
He can't fight.
Kurt, this will be an opportune time, mate, for you and your new brother to get involved here. A bit of bromance, you and big Klitschko fan.
Well, I'm pretty annoyed because I think we should have had a 4-hour preview show for this fight, but there you go.
We'll do a midweek special.
I think it's a good fight. I mean, Pulev is ranked high. I think most people see him as the second guy after Vlad, probably after his wins over Tony Thompson, Ustinov and Dimitrenko. I mean, he hasn't beat great fighters, but the guys who he's been faced with, he's dominated them, and I think he matches up with Vlad. He's 6'4" himself. He's got a good reach, so I think he's not a midget compared to a lot of the other guys Vlad faces.
He dominated Dimitrenko. He dominated Ustinov, and even look at early fights. Yes, he beat the likes of Matt Skelton and Michael Sprott, but those were a lot earlier when they were a lot better fighters than what they are now.
I thought Tony Thompson made him look a bit silly for the first sort of 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, at the beginning, and I don't think Pulev has fought many southpaws, but then he came on strong afterwards. I think Tony Thompson got tired after a couple of rounds anyway. But just going back to Pulev's resume, he's beaten, he's knocked out the likes of Travis Walker, Derek Rossi, not as in today, we're going back to about 4 years when they were a lot better than what they were now. So Kubrat Pulev, he was supposed to have an eliminator before Thompson. He was supposed to have an eliminator with Adamek. Adamek ducked him, and then he was supposed to have an eliminator with that from America, Brian Jennings, but then Brian Jennings bailed out as well.
I think there was talk about a potential eliminator with Tyson Fury at one point, wasn't there?
Yes, but then Tyson Fury changed and he went through the so-called WBC route, and
he ducked him.
So Tyson Fury picked that at that time, Tyson Fury picked Kevin Safety Pin Johnson.
Safety pin, yeah. I mean, I'm just looking through Pulev's record just now. To be honest, it's you think about it, you know, Zach Page, Max Skelton, those
as
two,
well.
Yeah, exactly. Early in his career, Dominic Gwynn, Derek Rossi, I think Fraser Quendo fought him, Travis Walker, Sprott, Dimitrenko, Ustinov. You know, it's a no bad resume by heavyweight standards recently, in all honesty.
He didn't spend like years, you know, to face them. He got him out of the way quickly and moved through the ranks quickly as well.
Top amateur as well.
He was a good amateur. I think he beat David Price in amateurs.
That wouldn't be hard in all honesty.
But he's a good fighter. I think he's got a very sharp, crisp jab. He's got a good jab and he's got a good reach. And I think he will cause more trouble to Vlad than any boxer over the last few years, really, if I'm honest with you.
Good stuff, mate. Anything else you want to cover just now?
Also, just very briefly, I know we've talked a lot about the lot of boxing that came on last night. I predicted Kovalev will win by knockout. I think Bernard Hopkins did well to go 12 rounds, bearing in mind Kovalev's record of knocking the last few 6, 7, 8 people out. So Hopkins, I think, even though he didn't win the fight, there was some form of moral victory for Hopkins that he did go.
Got a good bid on him, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I didn't see the Hadam Ali fight. I've not followed his career that much. And I did watch the Felix Sturm and Stieglitz fight. I had that draw. That was a very, very good fight, I thought.
It was a very good fight, mate. I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch in that one.
I was hoping for a victory because I don't like draws. I hate draws. I wanted Felix Sturm to win because I don't want to see Stieglitz Abraham number 4.
Yeah, agreed on that one.
So I think the rematch will be soon. I think they're going to plan on having the rematch next year. Well, I see him at some point next year. I don't think they'll have Abraham Smith on the undercard. Although there might be an idea. But I know Howland will actually make most of the cash. So we'll see. And that's about it, really.
No problem, mate. Thanks a lot for calling in for the first time.
Hold on, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Aziz.
Nice one, mate.
I want to ask some of you guys real quick. Here's one of the heavyweight fights that I want to see more than anything right now. Is Joseph Parker against Lucas Brown.
That's good.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I must have been dreaming last because I thought Brown was meant to be fighting yesterday on that Australian card, but then realised he's fighting on Mundine Rabchenko undercard.
Yeah,
Matty, so you'll be looking forward to that one.
I'll wake up early to see Mundine get knocked out. That's a great way to wake up. You don't even need coffee.
It's been an awful year for Australia, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been bad. It's been brutal for Australian boxers, actually, hasn't
it?
Damien Morris or whatever.
Damien Hooper.
Damien Hooper, he
got sparked, didn't he?
21 seconds or something. I think
brutal.
That guy has had a lot of problems outside the ring, drugs, spat in a police officer's face, and got iced by a temple shot. It just basically, it was more like kind of. You remember when Paul Williams got dropped off Sergio Martinez? It's just like dive bomb face first into canvas. Brutal.
You hear the Australian commentator say, Damien Hooper is one of Australia's best boxing prospects. 10 seconds later, he's flat.
By the way, lads, Mundine, I know he got knocked out last time. You can get nearly 2-1 for Rabchenko to score a KO.
Get on it, mate.
That is a big price. That's a big price.
Get on it, Matty.
Rabchenko's pretty awful, isn't he?
I want to say something here regarding this. If Mundine does get knocked out again, they're going to act like it's a fucking funeral. They're going to act like he's a national hero and shit.
They hate him over there anyway.
They don't like him, do they?
And
he's the Mayweather.
The sports writers, the personalities down there like him. He's a favorite of if you watch any Australian boxing broadcast, they suck his balls left and right.
It's because he brings them money, that's why.
Who down there has said anything poignant about Michael Katsidis in the last couple weeks?
Silence.
That's not poor Mundine's fault, though. He hasn't done that.
I just think it's ridiculous the way things work in Australia. I just wanted to throw that out there.
True.
I just think it's ridiculous that a guy like Michael Katsidis doesn't get his respect, and they don't do something to honor a guy that gave so much and really fought the best and didn't just hide out and build, a complete facade about what he is. Fucking Anthony Mundine, I hope he gets knocked out again, especially since it's by Ricky Hatton's boy. But I mean, these Australian guys, they need to start giving love to the fighters that deserve it. Gill and Katsidis deserve a lot more respect than Anthony Mundine.
Well, they're fucking weirdos. They're like you Americans, aren't they? They create their silly
It's your guys' penal colony. Why don't you just fucking kill them off instead of dropping them off?
They create silly sports. They only care about people that fight on their shows and that. Katsidis fought blood for years. They're not interested in that.
Yeah, listen, I'll tell you what. I know Nick Holland's a brutal commentator, but see the Australians. They need cold over there.
The Australians and the South Africans are just awful at it.
To become a legend, you must first be a legend.
But more than their cultural view of their fighters is, I think they don't know how to put on a safe card. I mean, their commission is corrupt, and I think they put on dangerous fights. They allow cheating. Haven't they allowed Gill to pack his gloves multiple times?
Oh, what about that Sonny Boy Williams?
Yeah, that was against the Tarver fight. The Tarver fight with Danny Green.
That was Roy Jones.
Not Gill.
Remember when Green was fighting Tarver, and I think Buddy McGirt had a feel at the gloves, and he noticed that there was some padding missing or something at the knuckle. So he says to Tarver, just leave it. We'll keep the gloves as they are, because obviously it was benefiting them. I think did not knock him out.
He did. I stopped him late. But Roy Jones says that. Roy Jones says that after he got knocked out for Danny Green. He says he would saw him up with the gloves as well, didn't he?
Aye. The Danny weight fight, 180 pounds. Alex, what was you saying, mate?
What was it? It was that Sonny Bill Williams. I forget who he was fighting.
That was Franz Botha.
Yeah, Franz Botha.
They just changed the length of the fight.
Yeah,
right?
they changed. They cut it short by 2 rounds.
So he was getting fucked up. So they thought, let's bring these
battered.
forward.
Yeah, he was about to be stopped basically, and they stopped it. And then gave it to him.
Wait a minute, was that no a 10 rounder that got dropped to an 8 rounder fucking halfway through the fight or something?
I think it was either 12 down to 10 or 10 down to 8.
And then both have failed a drugs test or something afterwards.
Yeah.
The thing with the Aussies is they don't care about the cheating. They like watching wrestling. They'll watch someone come in with a chair behind the rest back, smack him on the head. They'll still applaud it. They just want the victory. That's all they care about.
Remember when Danny Williams fought Constantine Ulrich? Ulrich's manager rung the bell to end the round about a minute ago. It's that tough guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Remember, just what Dave was saying there actually about the Australian Commission. It was Paul Briggs. Remember he fought Danny Green and he'd failed so many neurological tests and he got wiped out and he didn't even get touched.
No, he took a dive, didn't he?
He went to jab him, he missed and he went down.
That was a joke, wasn't it, though?
And then Green got on the mic and was really blasting him, weren't he?
I was like WWF, it was like one of these kind of skit type things. It was a disgrace, And, to be honest with you, I think when you see some of these fighters coming out here and that as well, they're just no hype. They just know what they're meant to be. Next Twitter question, guys. Open it up to everyone. Is Al Heyman's greed preventing the likes of Thurman, Wilder from earning the big paydays?
Well, Matty said it earlier, didn't he? I mean, if they manage to secure the big fights that they're obviously looking for, obviously Thurman with Floyd and possibly some of the others, then at the moment it just seems like he's ruining the careers just for his own benefit.
The thing is, you got to remember, he's supposed to be working for them, but you got to say if they're stupid enough to go along with it, then that's on them. We can say about Furman, he wants the big fights, but he's turned down a big deal here. Wilder, Steve Ernie, is that even going to happen? They seem to be turning down a lot of big money fights. Same with Peter Quillen. It's on the fighters. I mean, if they're letting him run the career, they better hope that it turns out right for him. But as fans, I think we should just say, it's on them now.
Heyman must have a file cabinet full of his fighters getting it on with trannies or something. There's no other explanation.
Why is Quillen
How is he actually making money, Heyman? If he's putting on shit fights, no one's going to buy the cards.
Showtime are laying in those pockets, aren't they?
10%. 10% he's on.
It's not just greed either. It's like he's super petty. He just can't allow anyone. He's like, these are my guys. You're not going to put on a card with my guys.
He just seems to have a problem with every other promoter, doesn't he, as well? So no one likes to work with him. So that's the problem right there. So his fighters they're not going to go in with other promoters, guys.
All I can tell you about Heyman though is he's got more black people to six-figure paychecks than
fucking Colombian drug dealers did in the 80s.
On that note, next question from Andrew Lee Evans. I'll go to you, Adam. Kov is a fucking beast, but surely he has to drop in weight for money fights, Triple G, Frotch, etc. No money in the light heavyweight division.
Well, there is money in the light heavyweight division, but he can't get to it because of the man we've just spoke about. I don't know. It is difficult. He's going to. I don't think he's got it in him to drop. I don't think he could get down to 168. To be honest,
he's huge. He's actually been struggling to make the weight 2 or 3 times. Did the 24/7 thing when?
Yeah, £2 overweight against Agnew.
£2 overweight.
Yeah, I just want him to, even if it's for one fight only, to move up to take on the winner of the November the 22nd bill, smash them to pieces, and then come back down. That would make my day.
It's not very nice.
No, it is.
He's already smashed one of them.
Kovalev ain't going near a cruiserweight, Nathan Cleverly.
Well, the thing is, though, if you look at the sparring session with Guillermo Jones, Kurt, he was battering him all over the bloody ring, and that was a sparring session against a legit cruiserweight.
Yeah, but if Jones can't get into shape for an actual fight, he ain't going to be in shape for a sparring, is he? Let's have it right.
He's got a chin, though. That's the thing.
He has.
There's 3 good money fights for Kovalev to take in Canada other than Stevenson.
Yeah, Pascal Bute.
Yeah, and Berti and Beterbiev eventually. 3 or 4 fights down the road. I mean, you're taking out Cloud in 2 rounds in your 7th fight. He's going to be a moneymaker.
Yeah, that guy's not moving. That guy's taking the fast route for sure.
Think about what happened with Bute against Andrade in the first fight, and then think about what Frotch did to him. Put your cock away, Adam. Kovalev would punch his head into and he would punch his head into the bleachers.
That's a first round knockout, isn't it?
Yeah, but hold on. Bute's with Freddie Roach now. We're getting the offensive machine now.
The same Freddie Roach that's seen Manny Pacquiao get wiped out against Juan Manuel Marquez. I mean, ice.
Yeah, I think he's shot now. He won't let his hands go.
Yeah.
He'd smash Bute to bits, but what about Pascal? Do you think Pascal might give him trouble for the first few rounds? He is athletic and quick. I know he's only a 4 or 5 round fighter.
That's it, then he blows out, and then Kovalev takes over.
I think jab to the body Kovalev throws is going to freeze Pascal. He would just kill his movement, kill his assaults. It would be it would be ugly when it ended, and Pascal wouldn't get much in.
I think it's the best fight that can be made now, though, because Pascal does have a good chin, so we'd see him at least catch a beating for a little while.
Pascal's fighting Don George next, so isn't he?
Yeah.
How about Tommy Carpenti? Win over Sad Chad.
That's
Big fight
point.
now.
Went distance with Nathan Cleverly.
Yeah.
2 white guys against each other. It's a rarity.
On that other note, we'll move on. This one comes. I'll go to you, Dave. This is one up your Straza. This is from Felix. Here's a question: is Hopkins given more credit than he deserves because of his age? He was completely shut out entirely.
Credit for what? I mean, no one's saying he won the fight. No one's saying he achieved a great deal offensively or won any rounds even. I mean, he gets credit for taking the fight. He gets credit for being in there and lasting the distance. He gets credit for good defense, which he's always had. And that's about it. I mean,
yeah,
what do you want?
I think he has to get credit for his age. I mean, if it was a 30-year-old guy now, I mean, if it was Stevenson or Pascal and they were beaten up like that, I don't know if they'd get any credit. But you got to give him credit because of his age. That's the whole point, and the fact that he took the fight as well.
Yeah, but you don't think that sometimes they're just kind of going over the top? I mean, it always seems to be when you speak about Hopkins, Quick Kellerman, for instance, you're coming up for 50 years old. Every time they speak about Hopkins, they always mention his age and he's going into the ring. He's still doing it at this age. It's like a kind of marketing gimmick type of thing,
It was a ready-made fallback for him, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's because he's the only one doing it. No one else is doing it. No one else has done it.
I mean, he looks better than some guys that are 20 years younger than him. He's more in shape than Tony Bellew ever was at the weight. He's more athletic than a lot of fighters.
It's as simple as that.
And it is as simple as that. Yeah, he deserves the credit purely because he's putting in more effort than guys that are in their physical and mental primes, and he's making them look silly. I think.
Speaking of Tony Bellew, I mean, he actually said on ringside that Hopkins would take Kovalev to school, didn't he? I mean, it's not like him to look a knob, is it?
Last question before we go to the Bellew of the Week segment, and then we'll get a few chances for discussion there. Tommy, the last question from Ball Revolution. I think we discussed it, but let's just maybe cut it up a wee bit more. If Kovalev can't get the Stevenson fight, who would you like to see him in fighting next?
Andre Ward, both on HBO. If Ward can get his promotional issues sorted out, that's a natural fight to make. I'm sure the network will be pushing for it.
Matthew?
What was the question? Sorry.
If Kovalev, who would you like to see him face next if he can't get Stevenson?
Saki Obika, I told us earlier on.
I honestly think that's a decent fight just to stay busy, but Pascal.
You put Mundine in on my...
Oh, Kovalev against Mundine is great. I mean, Mundine fought at 168, so that's cool.
Mundine schooled Sven Otka once, well, apart from last round.
That's bad though when you get iced off a guy that's only got 4 knockouts in his entire career.
It's fantastic.
And you're one of them.
Was that a dive though? That looked strange to me.
I really don't know. I think that was Mundine. I don't know Mundine's 13th fight or something. I mean,
yeah, it was only like
amateur.
12th or 13th fight. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I'd love to see Kovalev in with Amir Khan.
Well,
yeah, good shout.
To be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing the Beterbiev fight. If they're going to fast track that guy, by all means make the fight. If they don't want to hold him back, I like what they're doing with the likes of Lomachenko, not holding him back. Who's the other guy they're not holding back as well? His name escapes me just now.
What about this though, Adam? How about Froch moving up to face Kovalev?
Well, I think that question was already answered emphatically by his close friend and promoter Eddie Hearn last Thursday, where he said he wouldn't be moving up because he walks around at about 12.5 anyway.
So you're getting destroyed.
So you're basically saying that you think Kovalev batters him?
At light heavyweight, it's going to be a tough fight for Cole, yeah.
Fake fan.
What about
I think that
Hopkins?
Cole is going to continue his dominance of the super middleweight division.
Cut him off.
On that note, we'll bring in the Belly of the Week segment. Kurt, I hope you've got the intro ready, mate.
Yeah, let's see if it works.
Knock you out now, you fucking rat.
You fucking rat.
Who's going to beat me up, and that's all I've got to say about that. Well, let's do it right now. We can do it now, you fucking rat.
The only nomination I've got this week, guys, as you'll probably be well aware of, after our interview with Eddie Hearn on Thursday evening, the feedback's been pretty good, I must admit, on the websites and Twitter, etc.
Let's get it right, Andy. The feedback's been excellent.
It has been excellent. I think we were one of the first to try and get an in-depth interview from a fan's perspective. Anyway, I've got to be honest as well as I've got at this point in time. If he's listening, if he's not listening, if you're friends with him, we've got to thank Eddie Hearn at the end of the day. As not many people would have stepped up to the plate His phone cut out 3 times on us during that interview. He could have easily stepped aside and said, "Fuck it, I've spoke to the guys for as long as possible." But no, he was right on the phone. He says, "Phone me back straight away. I'm in a bad reception area," and he was back on the phone to us. So, to be honest, hats off to Eddie Hearn. But as you'll
Still
know,
not buying the pay-per-view.
Still not buying the pay-per-view though.
Using other methods.
But at the same point, I don't know who tweeted this out to this individual. But anyway, he went in a complete and utter meltdown mode. He accused me of being verbally abusive to him and called me a keyboard warrior when I actually hadn't said a word to him.
And a fanny.
Yeah, called me a fanny because I says, "Listen, mate, I stick up for you all the time." And he says, "Oh, a keyboard warrior sticking up for me." I says, Who am I meant to be scared of? So who's meant to be hating on me? I says, my missus doesn't like you, mate. That's why I just... So my missus went like, he goes, "You shouldn't have said that to him anyway." She says, "But you didn't like him." And the person in question is Mr. Steve Bunce. Now, for some reason, Mr. Bunce expected a fans podcast to only interview Eddie Hearn for 7 minutes. I'm at a loss for words, actually, because I don't want to go too strong on Bunce. I actually like him. There's no problem. He just goes off on these mad rants. Remember the Jones against the Lebedev fight when he verbally tweeted abuse to Ben Jacobs that the fight was off because of the failed drugs test. The fucking fight's on, you prick. But in 20 minutes, you wanker and all that sort of stuff. Guess what happened when the show came on live on air? The fight's off.
That's criticising him as a journalist and all this and trying to discredit him professionally. And, Bunce just looks like a knob. And he looked like a knob the other night because he called... I can't remember the exact wording, but I think it was like arrogant shite he called our podcast or something. Because
he called us
egomaniac shite or something.
Oh, egomaniac.
Self-indulgence from all sides.
And he did. This is the thing that I said to him. It's not that you don't like it. It's the fact that you said it's shite without even listening to a second.
Exactly.
That's what he said. He hasn't even listened to it. So
if he listened to it and then called it shite, fair enough. We can't complain. But he didn't listen to it. He just said it was egotistical shite and
sweaty palm boys
and
what does that mean?
I don't know.
Flicking away on the phone, I thought he called me a sweaty palm boy.
When was that, mate? When did he call you that?
On the Twitter, or was it you? He called one of us.
He called all of us it, I think.
He called me a fanny. What happened was I said to him, I said, somebody asked me, is he going to come on the show? I went, well, we'll wait and see what happens first. And he came back to me and said, "Shut up, you just sound like a fanny now." Then I says to me, that's when I got back to him and said, "Listen, mate, I actually defend you at times." And then he went on and on and on and says, "Listen, I'm not the one that's been utter aggressive with me." I says, "What are you talking about?" I actually sent him an actual link to all the comments I'd made to him. Not once did I swear or call him anything or even be aggressive to him, which is, for me, in all honesty, it's pretty impressive.
But once was the one that started attacking people. He obviously made his original comment, then he started calling people fannies and that. Then he had the goal after Haddock didn't he say, they were all attacking me, you know what I mean?
I know.
Nobody attacked
He called us thin-skinned, didn't he? Yeah. He called us thin-skinned after he blocked you, Tommy.
I must say, there is something about the word fanny when it's said by a Scottish person. It's just got something about it.
Dig in, mate.
Could Buncey have some sort of ulterior motivation for not liking the interview, or not liking that it involved Hearn, or
jealousy?
Because it was jealousy.
There was also a bit of shall we say, a bit of a dig at Box Nation. I think, especially towards the end of the interview, someone's calling it an interrogation on Eddie Hearn. We'll call it an interview anyway, but
we wanted to waterboard him at one point, but we just couldn't get the materials.
I liked it. I thought that
when you need him.
It was a solid job. I mean, I felt bad for Eddie a couple times on there, but he hung in there and showed a good chin. And in the end, you guys parted as friends and sort of. But what I didn't like, I don't think anybody asked Eddie about the Katsitas fight. That was the only thing.
I know. I didn't want to bring that up. Actually, I meant to bring that up, but just the way things kind of.
I don't give a shit about this pay-per-view. I mean, as an American, we pay a lot more for pay-per-views. You guys pay, it's $15 in US dollars.
We're all tight bastards, that's why.
I feel bad for you guys paying for the Al Heyman pay-per-views, Lex. Fuck, we think we're bad with Eddie Hearn over here.
But Tommy, what did Buncey say? Remember, he's running about for us. For instance, we had a 1 hour 41 minute special. He actually called it 141 minutes, so obviously can't tell the time. But tell us what he was moaning about Chris Eubank Jr. as to why it actually makes him sound kind of like hypocritical.
Well, right, to start for it, obviously Chris Eubank Jr. missed the press conference with Billy Joe Saunders, so Bunce went down to the gym with mate Eubank Sr. Eubank Sr. explained to him that Billy Joe Saunders had threatened to assault Chris Jr. and that's the reason they didn't attend the press conference. So after the interview back in the studio, Bunce was saying, yeah, but Chris Jr., he missed a big opportunity. There was a 1 hour interview scheduled with BT that would have went to the masses and that would have landed up on ESPN. I was thinking to myself, what the fuck is this guy saying? He just says the interviews shouldn't be longer than 7 minutes and Sleep does the other week. So, yeah, that's fucking Buncey for you.
There you go.
I thought you and Buncey were pals. He'd always he'd read your tweets on air and shit.
Listen, I go back a long way with Steve. Remember when Satana got closed down and that, and he was trying to get back on TV. I think he was struggling a bit financially, and he was going around the forums. He went to my old website and he asked me to post a petition and that up on the website that was to get him back onto TV and get him some work and that. And I did get quite a big response. And he started doing some tours and that through it, and obviously it led to Box Nation. So. Yeah, I mean, I've always got on right. I mean, I don't understand why he attacked us the other day. It's actually puzzling to me. I'm a bit disappointed, to be honest, but
it's just jealousy, innit?
He's a fucking wanker, man.
If Tommy didn't stream, he would have cancelled his Box Nation subscription that very night.
But yeah, man, that's fucking Bunce for you, isn't it?
Bunce is it for Bunce. I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to hate on the guy. I mean, end of the day, as well as who were the ones that actually campaigned for him to get him back on TV and stuff. It was the very people that he slated.
That's the thing. And
guys like us, boys.
He's having a go at boxing fans. Now, boxing fans are who pay for Box Nation. You know, that's all that pay for that show. So he's going about it the wrong way. To be honest, you know, with Eddie, you can say what you want about him. You don't agree to pay per view, whatever. Eddie will talk to you on Twitter. He'll come on the show and talk to us. Frank Warren has got a reputation where he doesn't like anything said about him. He doesn't like answering certain questions. And Buncey's getting the same way. You know, fans don't like him and they're saying things about him, and it's not a good reputation to have when you're trying to sell a boxing channel.
I think the best thing you could do is offer an apology. What do you say back? Fans tweet Bunce. If you're tweeting Bunce, say, what do you think about an apology?
I don't think that's going to happen because I think after the Ben Jacobs situation, we actually say to him, give him an apology because he was correct. Because at the end of the day, this guy had a contact somewhere down in South America, Central America, somewhere, Panama, and basically says, listen, this fight's off. There's rumours going about Panama. This fight is off. The guy speaks Spanish. He went to me and checked it out. He says, yep, this fight is off. He just abused the guy on Twitter for no reason, just because then Bunce came back and says, well, you need to source it. I says, well, I've sourced the information, and he just absolutely abused him for it. And then, as I say, 20 minutes later, you know, the show went on live on air and the fight was called off. But he's in on Twitter basically defending his comments by basically saying the guy didn't get the proper source for it. You know, where else was he going to get the source?
He just comes across as bitter as well. I mean, he was talking about, I think it was a Matchroom show. It was when Anthony Joshua last fought, and he said something like, he tweeted out, "Oh, is that show from Sky still going?" Because I think it was nearly midnight. And he goes, "If you want to check out some real boxing, championship boxing, like join Box Nation tonight for fucking Carlos Molina against K9 Bundridge." He just comes across as a right bitter person at times.
See Bunce back in the day when he was with Satan, I used to like him. I was a big fan of him, but see, you know, he's basically just Frank Warren's mouthpiece now, isn't he? That's it.
Frank says whistles and he just does what he wants,
Well, Frank says jumping, Bunce says how high.
Steve, mate, you'll know, you know, you're a journalist at the end of the day as well, but yeah, I can understand where Bunce comes from. He's from the old school. He's had to basically be on the phone to like America to get that exclusive 30, 40 years ago or whenever it was. He's had to watch the VHS tapes, read all the magazines just to get himself up to speed with the average boxing fan on the street. But at the end of the day as well, you know, life's moved on. We've all got access and stuff, you know. And he used Gabriel Montoya as some sort of basically expert on drug testing. When at the end of the day as well, as Gabriel Montoya is just like us guys. He has started off in the forums and on writing articles for websites, etc. And that's how he ended up getting where he is, because he had a chance on the website, not like Bunce having to do all the legwork, etc. Time's moved on and he needs to move with it.
Yeah, I think that's the most salient point of the whole thing. It is, you can't just dismiss people anymore now because they're writing for websites as being sort of nerds, because everyone's starting off on websites. Like I said, I started off on websites myself, and I think, Buncey's just got to move with the times. I've heard him have the likes of Terry Dooley on his radio show. I went on his radio show for BBC London, when I bought my first book out, to be fair to him. He gave me a leg up there in that respect. So, he knows that there's decent guys sort of, trying their best online and stuff. I think it's just whatever the mood takes him, maybe. I mean, Tommy mentioned his shows there. I went to his show when he came to Belfast after Setanta, and there was a whole big push to get him back on the TV, and he came and he spoke, and we all asked questions and stuff. And I mean, there weren't keyboard warriors that night, if you know what I mean. So I think it maybe just in a bit of a mood, so give him the benefit of the doubt, this time.
Yeah, missed his English breakfast that morning, I reckon.
I think anyway, but Steve Bunce is definitely, I think, the only nomination this week for Belly of the Week, and I think he's a worthy winner. Well done, Steve.
I'll tell you what, Andy. The first week that I actually had some nominations, and we've skipped them.
Yeah, I got some nominations too.
Who?
You go first.
Right. I'll go with Amir Khan. Devon Alexander is a tougher fighter than Kell Brook, and George Groves. Any interview that he mentions Carl Froch, quote, the fans want to see Froch versus Groves 3.
That's pretty bad.
I rate Devon Alexander, so getting that comment.
Dave, who you got, mate?
I'm going to say Adrian Broner. Did anyone else see his
what a meltdown that was.
Suicidal, wasn't it?
He's called out Michael Jackson in heaven, and Tupac.
No way Michael Jackson's in heaven, man, so that's bullshit to start with.
Michael Jackson was only like a super flyweight before the end as well, weren't he? Skinny little thing.
Adrian Broner is the Miley Cyrus of boxing.
Wait a minute, Vicky Ortiz. Steve, what did he say again?
It's quite funny. He said that he was still going to be a legend or something. Believe me, I'm still going to be one of the greats.
He's going to get the Mayweather rematch. He's going to be one of the greats.
He's going to beat Floyd in 3 or 4 rounds.
Collazo obviously hurt him a lot more than we thought.
He's punch drunk now.
You're going to have to give out an interim title or a silver title this week.
I genuinely think he's mentally, slow.
Yes, he is. He's a bit retarded, doesn't he? Sorry for listening, CJ.
Any other nominations in?
If you've seen Expendables 3, you know he can't act either, so he can't fight, he can't act, his prospects aren't looking good.
Life
I think that's a bit unfair saying he can't act. When he took the dive in the Mayweather fight, that was some pretty good acting, because he convinced a lot of people he was actually hurt in that fight.
I'm also going to nominate Anthony Mundine for mentioning Floyd Mayweather if he beats Rabchenko.
He always mentions Floyd Mayweather. The guy's a joke. He always mentions them. But no, listen, I'm going to pull rank this week. I think Vicky Ortiz, obviously, but I think Bunce, he just walked that way with the park. Bunce,
I'm happy with him getting.
Yeah.
What about Alex for his Barker Sturm comment?
Oh, I think I'm going to be surprised for Alex coming up shortly.
We should give Alex a lineal value of the week for that.
The emeritus champion. The emeritus champion.
What were you actually thinking about? Did you see that he didn't actually put up a fight or something?
Well, I thought
it's Tom Cohen.
I thought that basically I think he mentioned that Barker was in a controversial fight with Sturm or something, and I thought he was mistaking Macklin and Murray's fights with Sturm because they were controversial in a sense. But so I thought he was thinking, hold on, Barker didn't get a decision against Sturm, and I completely forgot about the fight. But then when obviously you all started laughing and taking the piss, I realised that my mistake. And I should have sort of palmed it off as being, I'm being very sarcastic about it.
Alex the casual.
Alex made us look very poor in that attempt.
I know. we need to fight tooth and nail to get that interview back on track because we're looking like rank amateurs there, I don't know if you want to have any discussion, lads, but the fight schedule next Wednesday, Matty's going to be up at 4 a.m. to watch Anthony Cuntdean get wiped out by Sergio Rabchenko. I dare say
I've got a discussion.
What you got?
Sergio versus Kovalev.
Sergio
Martino.
Sergio of Calzaghe.
Yep.
Sergio. I thought you said Sergio.
Oh no, Sergio versus Kovalev, prime for prime.
Wait a minute. Did you not say somebody had mentioned that Calzaghe was looking at a 2-fight deal coming out of retirement?
That was a Twitter question I got. Yeah, it's in the Star.
That's not happening. Calzaghe's not coming out of retirement.
That happened 3 or 4 years ago, wasn't it?
What is he then? 45?
It's not that old, is he?
42 or 43, isn't he?
Yeah, he's early 40s now.
All right,
He
in
should
his
keep
prime,
living the good
he
life,
never
snort
sneak in
some
the fight.
blow like everyone else would do in that position.
It would take a lot of money, wouldn't it?
Yeah, depending on how you do it. I just
he's
moved
not
to
been in the ring for
Bolivia and
years.
cut the middleman out.
You put it this way, how much does he value his work? Because if he comes back now, he's going to lose, isn't he? I'm a big Joe Calzaghe fan. I think he's one of the greats. But if he comes back now, he's going to lose. It's how much he values it.
He won't come back now.
Nah.
I want to see Calzaghe versus Johnny Nelson.
He still can't throat.
I mean, if he's going to come back, it's going to be someone like Frotch, a fight he can win, not Kovalev.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Calzaghe gets wiped out of Kovalev.
Would Frotch beat? Would Calzaghe beat Frotch right now?
No.
Absolutely not.
Probably not. You don't know. You need to see him. You need to have a tune-up. You couldn't just jump right in the ring with Carl Frotch, could he?
Well, the great Sugar Ray
If
Leonard did
If Bernard Hopkins is the alien, Joe Calzaghe is the deity.
God. He's God.
Here's the thing about him and Kovalev. In his prime, he would never have taken the fight, but if his daddy did manage to drag him to the ring like he did against Jeff Lacey, then he would have gotten knocked out.
He's never coming
Your
out of the
hate
fight again.
knows no fucking bounds. It defies all logic and reason.
Joe
You're
himself
trying to
said-
argue against the inarguably. Seriously, someone give me, with resume and ability combined, someone that has more clout at 168 than Joe Calzaghe.
Andre Ward. Much better.
Just because we saw Hopkins take a beating last night, there's no need to just talk shit about Sir Joe. No need for it at all.
I mean, Sir Joe done that to Hopkins first before, didn't he?
No, we
Prime
have
as
someone
well.
out there who agrees with me, even if we don't have anyone on the panel.
See, here's the thing, Dave. You got to remember what you got to give Calzaghe credit for that Hopkins couldn't do. See, against Hopkins, Calzaghe went down in the first, but he turned the fight around. Hopkins can't do that.
He did against Jean Pascal.
Well, doing that against Jean Pascal is like doing it against a fucking 60-year-old whose oxygen tank's going to run out.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't
Fucking
run out
even
against
Sad
Buchev.
Chad was coming on against Pascal late.
Pathetic fighter.
Anyways, next Thursday, I believe, sees Carlos Cudras make the second defence of his WBC Super Flyweight title against Marvin Maybat in Washington.
Awesome fight. Awesome.
I want to see him fight a rematch against Siriskut first, actually. I think he was coming on strong in that fight until the cut happened. Friday, Sammy Vasquez. I've been reading a wee bit about him, actually. Sammy Vasquez is a Mike Tyson fighter. He's fighting Alberto Mosquera. Now, Mosquera, did he not lose? Who did he lose to?
Did he fight Valero? No.
Valero did.
Was it Valero?
Was that Vicente?
That was a different Mosquera.
That was Vicente Mosquera, wasn't it?
That's the one, aye. So it's a different fighter. But Sammy Vasquez is 16-0 with 12 knockouts, getting a lot of write-up. Mike Tyson seems to be quite happy with him. Who else we got? And that goes on to the Saturday evening. Obviously, Kurt's going to be sitting in front of his television. Eurosport will be on. The lube out in his hand and his member stuck in between it. Vladimir Klitschko defends his many titles against Kubrat Pulev.
Is Richie Woodall going to be coming out on that? Because he better get his name right, because one mistake and there'll be an email sent.
Strong worded one?
Very strong.
I had
To whom it may concern.
I've also got Gilberto Ramirez Sanchez fights Folenko Zuniga in Texas. Who else we got? I've actually got that card from Sky coming on. Matthew Macklin fights Jorge Highland. Are you going to that one, Steve?
Yes, all being well, I'll be down there.
For what I hear from Ian Butcher, John Simpson is looking absolutely shit hot in sparring, so that could be a good fight with Paddy Highland. I think he's basically admitting that that's going to be his last chance saloon. I think Gary O'Sullivan against Fitzgerald might be a decent enough war. I think it might be a war of attrition, that one, actually, in my personal opinion.
Do you think
John-
so? I think it'll just be an out-and-out war between them two.
That's what I think. I think it'll be a war of attrition. Yeah, I think it will be a shootout. Christian Miares, he fights in Mexico. Gamboa is back in action in Mexico next Saturday as well against Jol Montes del Oca.
Can I just add
What weight's that, Andy?
It's like, is it lightweight? Fuck's sake. That's what
Gamboa is the shortest priced boxing favourite I've ever seen. He is 1 to 250.
Nice. Jesus Christ. That shit light heavyweight from South Africa, Thomas Oosthuizen faces Denis Grachev in South Africa, and then you've got the card from the Philippines, Donny Nietes faces Carlos Valrada for the WBO light flyweight title, and Milan Melindo fights an IBF light flyweight eliminator. I think that's everything to discuss this week, lads. Just to let you all know that the Ian Butcher interview will be available on the download. This has been the 100th episode. We've been here for 2 years. It's been a good roll so far, so I'd like to thank the panel today: Matty, DJ Leonardo, Tommy Allen, Steve Wellens, David Hater, Lowback, Kurt Ward, Alex Morris, Adam Smith, Donny Baseball couldn't make it today. And just to let the listeners know, is tomorrow we'll be interviewing Dave Caldwell, who will be put on, I think, the Sunday show, I think, guys.
Next week.
Yeah, next week, yeah.
The Sunday show. So we'll speak to Dave tomorrow. So any questions to ask him, you know what to do. Hit us up. I'm your host, Andy Patterson, and we'll see you next week. All the best. Cheers and bye.
Gonzaga number one.
Top 10 pound for pound.
Joe for
Kovalev.
Hopkins beat Kazagi.
Audley Harrison is God.